Morning.
Hello. Balsara sir, am I audible?
Yes, you are audible.
Yeah, I can hear you.
सोने से भी इंडिया और का ही वाटर में
You are not audible.
Hello. This is Faisal. Am I audible now?
Yes, now you are audible.
So, sir, it's 11:05. People would be joining as we move on. Sir, we'll start the session. Sir, with small verses of the Quran, the Holy Book. I invite Brother Imran Hashmi to commence the session. Imran. Imran, you're not audible.
Okay.
Yeah.
अभी आ रही है आवाज?
Yes, अभी सुनाई दे रहा है. Go on, Imran.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. يا أيها الذين آمنوا إذا تداينتم بدين إلى أجل مسمى فاكتبوه وليكتب بينكم كاتب بالعدل ولا يأب كاتب أن يكتب كما علمه الله فليكتب وليملل الذي عليه الحق وليتق الله ربه ولا يبخس منه شيئا فإن كان الذي عليه الحق سفيها أو ضعيفا أو لا يستطيع أن يمل هو فليملل وليه بالعدل واستشهدوا شهيدين من رجالكم فإن لم يكونا رجلين فرجل وامرأتان ممن ترضون من الشهداء أن تضل إحداهما فتذكر إحداهما الأخرى ولا يأبى الشهداء إذا ما دعوا ولا تسأموا أن تكتبوه صغيرا أو كبيرا إلى أجله ذلكم أقسط عند الله وأقوم للشهادة وأدنى ألا ترتابوا إلا أن تكون تجارة حاضرة تديرونها بينكم فليس عليكم جناح ألا تكتبوها وأشهدوا إذا تبايعتم ولا يضار كاتب ولا شهيد وإن تفعلوا فإنه فسوق بكم واتقوا الله ويعلمكم الله والله بكل شيء عليم صدق الله العظيم. In the name of Allah, the most merciful, the most gracious. O you who have believed, when you contract, O you who have believed, when you contract debt for a specified term, write it down and let a scribe write it between you in justice. Let no scribe refuse to write as Allah has taught him. So let him write and let the one who has the obligation dictate. And let him fear Allah, his Lord, and not leave anything out of it. But if the one who has the obligation is of limited understanding or weak or unable to dictate himself, then let his guardian dictate in justice and bring two witnesses from among your men. And if there are not two men available, then a man and two women from those whom you accept as witnesses, so that if one of the women errs, then the other can remind her. And let not the witnesses refuse when they are called upon. And do not be too weary to write it, whether it is small or large, for its specified term, that is more just in the sight of Allah and is stronger as evidence and more likely to prevent doubt between you, except when it is an immediate transaction which you conduct among yourselves. For then there is no blame upon you if you do not write it, and take witnesses when you conclude a contract. Let no scribe be harmed or any witness, for if you do so, indeed it is grave disobedience in you. And fear your Lord and fear Allah, and Allah teaches you, and Allah is knowing of all things.
Thank you, Imran. Sir, without further ado, we will get to the business. And before starting the session, it's I feel honor, privilege to introduce the guest speaker of the today, C.A Mr. Balsara, sir. I see honor or privilege because I know this person for past 12 years. I have been fortunate to attend this session for past 12 years. Balsara sir is ex-LNTites. He is retired and he used to head the Shared Service Center of the whole LNT group. Balsara sir, am I audible well?
Yeah.
So I'll add more to this. It would be most great if I ask, correct, if I start his introduction as a philanthropist. because he consider sharing the knowledge is one of the essential duty of the human who has it. I believe that in India, we lack. I used to believe, which when I met Balsara sir, I found incorrect that we lost the socio-economics expertise, such as the subjects like economics, psychology, history, sociology. Because I was along with the people with most of them technocrat. But when I people like Balsara sir, the whole thing has changed. And today I think a very important topic which touches everyone amongst us. So without further ado, I just call Balsara sir. So friends, please sit back, relax. I'm sure this journey would be very exciting. I'm telling with full responsibility because I know the pilot. The pilot is really great. Balsara sir, the floor is yours. Please, please enlighten us.
Yeah. Can you just give me the rights for sharing the screen? I think that has been disabled by the host.
So can you try now, sir?
Yeah. No, it's still disabled.
Musab? Give me a second.
I think screen sharing, there is some problem.
Give me a second, sir. I'll just check with this guy. Yeah, you are there.
Yeah. You'll have to give me the rights to share the screen. Still showing it's disabled, you know. Yeah. Yeah. Can you see the screen now?
Yes, sir. Yes, we can.
Okay. So, good morning and thank you very much. First of all, a big thank you to PSF and particularly to Faisal for having invited me to speak to you about something which is quite close to the heart. And my request to all the participants is that I would like you to make this session as interactive as possible. I actually don't look at the chat when I'm talking because it disturbs me. So what we'll do is, at various times during the presentation, I would request you to stop me and I will tell you when to. You please open your mic, unmute and ask me questions at that time. So before we get into the session, for most of us who are from the non-finance background, there are certain paradigms or mindsets which prevent us from understanding finance. Now, if we have to understand finance and accounts, we will first of all have to break these paradigms. And the first paradigm that we need to break is understanding finance is difficult. Trust me, finance is not difficult. Neither is finance difficult, nor are all finance people extremely intelligent. Like in any other profession, you will also find that certain people in finance are a cut above the rest. The other thing is that finance is not only for companies, but also for individuals. Now, all of us have to find some way to meet our daily expenses. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to start from the very basic, and most importantly, that I never say that I'm teaching this subject. I always say that I am learning this subject. And today, all of us are learners, including me. I consider myself as much a learner as any one of you. So I would request you to show me. Show me is a healthy attitude. I want you to show me. So I'll just repeat what I said, that please get it out of your systems that finance is difficult. Trust me, it's not. And what is our agenda for today? We are going to talk first about why finance. Why do we need to know about finance? Which we look at from the three perspectives. First of all, as an individual, because we are individuals first and anything else afterwards. We'll then look at it from a company or a corporate perspective. And then finally, just one slide from a government's perspective. Because I appreciate that most of you would have no knowledge of the subject. So my sincere request to you is, if you don't understand something, please stop me, because if you don't understand something, it's not your problem. It's my problem. I am failing in my duty and what Faisal and PSF have given to me. So please feel free to stop me if you don't understand something. I can explain the same thing in different ways. And I'm sure one of them, I would be able to succeed in getting through to you. We'll then talk about, after why finance, we'll talk about two words. That is the words of accounts and finance. We'll try and understand what is the difference between the two, because we use these words interchangeably. So in a very simple way, in fact, there is one slide that I've got, which will help you to understand what is finance and what is accounts. We'll then look at the basics of accounts, that is the concept of revenue account and capital account, and try and understand what's the difference between the two. And the two, finally, every financial transaction goes into two accounting statements. That's the profit or loss account and the balance sheet. We'll try and understand that, which will be our final profit or loss account and the balance sheet. A very, very simple profit or loss account and the balance sheet, which we'll look at. Sorry. So this is the agenda for the day. And I also request you that if there's something else you would like me to discuss, I'm going to leave you behind with the slides as well as my mobile number and email ID. Because as it was mentioned by Faisal, now at the age of 63, 64, my balanced life, whatever the remaining 5 years, 10 years, hopefully, that of course depends on God. But whatever the balanced life is there, I would like spending doing this, because this is what I enjoy most. So let's get along to why finance, firstly, as an individual. Now, obviously, money is a basic necessity of life. And, the people who ever tell you in life that money doesn't matter to them are not telling you the truth. And let's not bother about these people, because usually the people who say money doesn't matter to them are those who have got already enough money to live very, very comfortably, and probably for their children to live very comfortably. But if you look at this whole journey of life, this 75, 80-year journey of life, right from the child, the time the child is born. I remember the first time I became a father. My elder son is 30 years today. But right from the first time the mother is giving birth, after you get over the initial euphoria that you have created life, what hits you is that the mother to be has to undergo some special diet. She has to regularly visit doctors, and all this costs money. In a city like Mumbai, where I am from, if it's a normal delivery, it could cost you about 30,000-40,000 rupees. God forbid, if there are complications, it could cost you 3 to 4 times that. For most of us, middle class people, the only answer is education. So we enroll our children into good schools, into schools which cost money, and we complete our basic education, but that's not enough. Somebody specializes in medicine, becomes a doctor, somebody becomes an engineer, somebody becomes a chartered accountant. But then for most of us, the option is for the next 30-35 years of our lives, we take up a job. In a job, you will always find that the salary that you get never seems to be enough for you to meet all your expenses. And you will always be telling yourself, काश मुझे थोड़ा 5-10 हजार रुपए ज्यादा मिल जाता तो कितना अच्छा होता. But that is not in your hands. We work for 30 years, 35 years, we reach the age of 60. At that time, we retire. When you retire, what hits you is, and something that hit me also about 3-4 years back, when I retired from L&T, was that the salary income is not going to be there. But kharche to aise hi hone wale hain. So that time you start thinking about investments and stuff like that, that how am I going to maintain my lifestyle when there is no salary income? And then at the age of 80, 90, when we are close to God, we remember that we should live and try and leave behind to those whom we love as much of the financial resources that we have. So through this entire journey of life, money is something constant, whether you like it or not. Now, in the course of this presentation, I will be talking to you about some 4 or 5 fundamental things. I don't want you to mug them up. I don't want you to remember them by heart, but I want you to understand them by head. Because if you understand by head, you'll never forget it. And this is the first of these principles, is that whether it's an individual or whether it's a company or a corporate, as long as the inflow of money, that is the paisa jo andar aata hai wo, as long as the inflow of money is greater than the outflow of money, you're all right. Now, for a company, if the inflow of money is greater than the outflow of money, there is profit. And for an individual, it is savings. Savings leads to investments, various kinds of investments. Now, what you need to appreciate is, ladies and gentlemen, that there is relatively very little we can do on the inflow side. All of us would like to earn a few lakhs every month, but that is not determined by us. That is determined by circumstances external to us. Against that, on the outflow side, there is somewhat of a control. How much of that inflow do you spend? How much of it do you save? When you look at expenditure, there is a little more control. Of course, today with the inflation that it is and the various things, sometimes in life you feel that even the outflow is not under your control. Especially say if your aged parents have to be hospitalized, your children have to be sent to a good educational institution. Even the outflow you see becomes too much sometimes for you to manage. But the first fundamental principle of any finance is that as long as the inflow of money is greater than the outflow of money, you're all right, and that there is relatively little you can do on the inflow side. Life cannot be planned without money being planned. And as I've been telling you, that understanding money management is not rocket science. Now, despite understanding, despite acknowledging and appreciating the importance of finance in our lives, we do very little to teach our children about it. Our children, even in our commerce colleges, are not taught the very basics of money management, which is fine, which when they come into the real world, when they start taking up a job, or they start doing some business of their own, they are hopelessly inadequate because they don't have that knowledge. It is my dream that someday in every country in the world, our children, probably when they are old enough, probably in the 8th standard, 9th standard, at the age of 15, 16, they will be taught about the basics of finance, that they don't find themselves so inadequate. even in our commerce colleges, even in my chartered accountancy, I wasn't taught, or neither in my cost accountancy, I was taught the basics of money management. So this is, I would say, one of the in fact, probably the only mission that in life I have set out to accomplish now at the age of 63, that I would like people to know as much as possible about money management. So coming to a company, now a company also has to earn more than it spends. A company, you will understand, will earn something by selling its products, selling its goods. Now, why is this? Because a company has to pay back various stakeholders. Who is a stakeholder? A stakeholder is someone who is interested in the company. So the company has to pay the government. Let's go backwards. Because first of all, the company has to pay the government. Whenever a company manufactures something, or even if it provides a service, like say some transporter is providing, it has to pay today what is called GST, goods and services tax, which ranges between 5% to 18%. But remember, a company cannot sell something unless it pays, let's take it because 70% of the items come under 18%. It has to pay 18% to the government. So let's say if a company is making a tube of toothpaste, let us say the cost of that toothpaste is 8 rupees. The company would be happy selling it at 10 rupees, so they make a profit of 2 rupees. But before they sell it out, 10 rupees pay, you have to add 1.8, because they let us say that the GST, I know the GST is probably not 18% on toothpaste, but make it simple. So 1.8 is added. The company will finally sell it to the consumer like you and me, and we'll pay 11 rupees 80 paisa. So 1 rupee 80 paisa is indirectly the GST that we have to pay to the government. Employees have to be paid salaries. The company, let us say, when it is making toothpaste, it has got some raw material suppliers. Let us say some chemicals are supplied, some other stuff is supplied. Those suppliers have to be paid. And another important thing, that a company has only two places from where to get money. It has to get money from lenders. Lenders give the money and they will get a fixed return called interest. Shareholders are the owners of the company. Now, why have I gone in the reverse order? Is that when a company closes down, first the government has to be paid, then the employees have to be paid, then the suppliers will be paid, and usually the money will be over by that time. So even if the lender has lent 100 rupees, he probably won't get back the full 100 rupees. He'll get back maybe 50 rupees. He'll have to take a loss on that. Because that is when a company closes down, it doesn't have enough money because it's constantly made losses. So proper financial management ensures that a company effectively utilizes its money. Now, there are two ways of effective utilization. Either you earn maximum on the surplus money available. So here I want you to introduce you to a concept, the difference between cash and profit. So what is cash and what is profit? Let us say that you are running your own business and the very first year you are able to sell. In India, I will explain to you shortly, we use the financial year as the year to record results. So in India, the financial year is between 1st April to 31st March. Why we do this, I'll explain to you in the next slide. But let us say that you are your small businessman and you have a very simple thing. You are buying oranges in wholesale and selling them in retail. And your total cost, let us say for the year, is 40 lakhs. You have been able to sell those oranges for 50 lakhs. You have made a profit of 10 lakhs at the end of the year. When you sit and do your accounts, you said 50 is my kamai, 40 is my kharcha. So my profit is 10 lakh rupees. Now I want you to visualize. Visualization is a very, very important technique in accounts, and it will help you to understand something in a very nice way. Visualize that if you are a small orange seller, what would have happened? Let us say that you put all the money that you get from selling oranges. You have opened a bank account for the business, and all that money has gone into the bank account. So in 1 year, 50 lakh rupees has gone into your bank account. And from that, you have spent money. Your main money would be purchasing the oranges in wholesale. Maybe you have got 1 or 2 employees. Maybe you have got some transportation cost. Maybe all that karke, you have spent 40 lakhs out of that bank account. So what is left in the bank account is 50 lakhs what has come into the bank account and 40 lakhs has gone. So 10 lakh rupees is left in your bank account and 10 lakh rupees is your profit. Now, one very important thing that I want you to understand is that please understand that profit is done at periodic intervals. You calculate your profit. That भैया मुझे इतना profit हुआ, मेरा income इतना है जो मैंने बेचा, minus मैंने खर्चा इतना किया. But please understand that the cash that you get, the money that you get, if you keep it in the bank account, you don't get any interest on it because it's a current account. On current accounts, you don't get any interest. So what would you like to do with that money? That money that you get on every single day of the year, just because you make your accounts on the 15th of May for the financial year 1st April to 31st March, does not mean that the money should be kept idle in the bank account. So if supposing you're a very conservative businessman and you say कि मुझे एक साल कुछ नहीं करना है, so you keep on collecting that money. To give you a very simple example, supposing the total income was 50 lakhs and you have spent 38 lakhs in the year, साल में आपको 12 लाख profit हुआ है, and assume it is every month the same transaction you do. So एक महीने में आपको 1 लाख रुपया profit होगा. At the end of 1 month, how did I get 1 lakh? 12 lakhs divided by 12 months. So 1 lakh rupees will be lying in your bank account at the end of 1 month, 2 lakhs at the end of the second month, 3 lakhs at the end of third month. Now, you can't just sit idly on that money because otherwise what's the point in doing business? You will have to pay your suppliers, you have to pay your employees and all these things. So if at the end of the year, let us say that your spending is, let us say that you wanted to buy more oranges, you thought oranges prices will go up, so you bought a lot of stock, or maybe you bought a godown to put those oranges. Please understand that you might have a profit of 12 lakhs, but supposing you have bought a godown for 15 lakhs in the year, how will you be able to buy that godown? You will only be able to buy that godown by using that profit of 12 lakhs and borrowing 3 lakh rupees. So profit is not equal to cash. If you do something with the profit, please understand that if you do something with the profit, then you will have to borrow money. If you spend more in the course of the year in the business, say you buy more raw material, you buy more, let us say you buy a van to transport your oranges, then that money will be going from your bank account. So you could have a company or any commercial entity where there is a good profit, but that profit in the course of the year has gone into the business. So you will have a profit of 12 lakhs. But supposing you have spent 15 lakh rupees to buy a godown or to buy a van, then you will not have any cash balance in your bank account. In fact, you would have to borrow 3 lakh rupees to fulfill that requirement of buying that godown or buying that van. I'll be happy to take questions. Any questions? Let's make it interactive, friends. If you don't understand something, please tell me. Have you understood so far? I'd like some feedback from you.
Then sir, how will we define cash?
Cash is the balance that is left in your bank account.
Okay, sir.
So why you
Right,
differentiate
Zubair?
cash?
Yes,
and,
sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
So sorry, am I audible?
Yeah, Faisal.
Why did you differentiate and put a comparison between cash and profit?
Because please understand that what is profit? Profit is merely an accountant's number. Profit is merely an accountant's number. Supposing you have sold 50 lakhs and you have spent 38 lakhs, then profit is 12 lakhs, right? Now understand that when you prepare the profit or loss account after 1 year, usually you prepare it after 1 year, you will have that figure coming out to you. But if you have not done anything with the profit, then I agree that that cash 12 lakhs will be equal. You know, there'll be 50 lakhs which has come into your bank account and 38 lakhs which has gone out, right? So
Okay.
profit will be equal to cash. But will you do business that way? Will you let that money accumulate in your bank account? No, because you will start using that money for doing something else on a day-to-day basis.
Okay.
Right?
Yes.
So supposing in the, now we are preparing the profit or loss account as we'll come to for 1st April to 31st March, right? Law allows you to 2 months further. That means up to 31st May, you're allowed to prepare your profit or loss account, right? So supposing you have not done anything with the profit, you have just kept on accumulating that money in your bank account. So 12 lakhs will be the balance. But is that the right way to do business? No. Because whatever that profit, remember that profit is not, the profit doesn't happen when you prepare the profit or loss account. It happens on a day-to-day money. There is money coming into your bank account and getting out of your bank account. So that cash is being used for something else. So supposing your profit is 12 lakhs, but in the course of the year, you have bought a van for 15 lakhs. Then what? Then that 3 lakhs extra, you will have to borrow that money because you will have the profit, let us say, but you need more. So you will have to borrow 3 lakh rupees to buy that van, right? Have I made myself clear, Faisal?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Okay. So remember, when we come to the balance sheet, remember that there are 2 sides to a balance sheet. On one side, you will have cash, and on the other side, you will have profit. There is a very nice saying in English by a wise man called Warren Buffett. He says that profit, what he says is sales is vanity. That means sales is apne aap ko aap vanity kar rahe ho. Profit is sanity. That means, and cash is reality. So it's not profit which will determine how good or bad the company is. It is what do you do with that profit. Have you gone and wasted that cash? Let us say that you have gone and put it into some property which is useless, or you're not able to utilize that property for the business. So understand the difference between profit and cash. Because profit is only found out when you prepare the profit or loss account, which could be after a year. But cash is what comes in on a day-to-day business, right? So continuing with this, like you have for an individual and a company, a government also has various sources of getting money. Government will get money from income tax, administrative receipts, divestments. Like recently, last year, the government sold off Air India. They sold Air India to the Tatas. So the government sells some government companies and gets money. Against that, there are various activities which the government has to do. For example, nobody beside the government is going to spend on defense. We have to import 80% of the oil, so we have to spend on oil imports. We have got subsidies. Subsidies means the government is giving things to the public at a price lesser than what they are paying for them. The most common example of a subsidy is that farmers who grow rice and wheat get about 20 rupees per every kilo of rice or every kilo of wheat that they produce. And that is given to the public. You are aware just now that nearly, I think 50 or more than 60% of our population is getting free food. So now that is an expense which the government bears. Government has to spend on the salaries, pensions, administrative expenses, this lal batti culture that we have in India, where you find too many people, any minister, any politician, any leader, you find 20 people hovering around him. Now those people wouldn't be there unless they are getting some money out of it to run their houses. So all this is the government expenditure. And in India, or in most countries in the world, except China, whose numbers you can never completely rely on, you have an excess of expenditure that is outflow over income. Now excess agar kharcha zyada ho gaya kamai se, so what happens? You will have to either borrow money or you will have to do a second thing. Now you and I can't do the second thing. When in India, for the financial year, I will come to you in a minute for financial year, the kharcha for the financial year 23-24, that is the period between 1st April 23 to 31st March 24, is about 40 lakh crores. That is 40 followed by, what is a lakh? It is 1 followed by 5 zeros. A crore is 1 followed by 7 zeros. So a lakh crore is 40 followed by 5 plus 7, that is 12 lakh crores. So 12 zeros. So kharcha is 40 lakh crores, that is 40 followed by 12 zeros. The inflow of the government, that is, paisa kahan se milne wala hai, income tax, GST, administrative receipts, divestments, what the government has budgeted for is about 24 lakh crores. So, kharcha is jada by 16 lakh crore. That 16 lakh crore is called deficit. Deficit means your expenditure is more, and because of which you have to borrow. One other solution that you have is that if you don't want to borrow, and you'll be surprised to hear this, that there is no restriction on the amount of currency or the amount of notes a country can print. In India, for the last 12 to 15 years, we have not been printing currency because the problem is if you borrow money, you have to pay interest. Let us say that this government decides that 40 minus 24, that is 16 lakh crores. Let us say I have to do borrowing. Now, how does government do borrowing? The RBI will issue bonds. You will put in money into things like postal schemes. You will put money into your public provident fund. So Reserve Bank of India will issue bonds. This is government borrowing. Now, banks, financial institutions, people like you and me put money into the government schemes. So all this is borrowing for the government. Now, that borrowing is, let us say, 16 lakh crores. Please understand that if the average interest rate is 7%, without doing anything, next year, your interest liability is going to go up by 1 lakh crores. 16 lakh crores per 7% is 1,12,000 crores, right? So automatically your interest. So borrowing se kya hota hai? Borrowing se apna interest बढ़ता hai. So then why don't you just solve the problem by printing money? Now, if you look at a currency note, on that you will find that there is a wording written there, on demand, I promise to pay the borrower. Now, what is that? Supposing you give your friend, supposing your friend gives you a loan. Let us say he gives you a loan of 50,000 rupees. वो आप उसको लिख के देते हैं कि भैया I owe you 50,000 rupees, right? वो कोई पेपर मांगता है आपसे. Similarly, when the government prints currency, so the funny thing in economics is that there is no difference between borrowing money and printing money. The problem is, if you borrow money, you have to pay interest, which increases your deficit. And if you print money, what happens is that if you print money, there is inflation. Because too much money, if you print, like what is happening in America today, that you keep on printing money, and what happens is, because there is more money chasing a limited amount of goods, prices start rising. So the problem with economics is that, and always all countries in the world will have this problem. On one side, they want growth. They want the poor people to be given money. They want the subsidies to be given to people. So all this costs money. And on the other side, if you borrow too much money, interest will go up. Or if you print too much money, you will have inflation. And the government's financial statements policies get reflected in an annual budget. Every year on the 1st of February, earlier they used to do it on 28th February. They now do it on 1st February. The finance minister will stand up on the floor of parliament and give a budget. Now in India, why do we follow April to March? Please understand that 60 to 70% of India, or more than that in fact, gets rains in June to September. वो सफर के बाद the kharif crop is harvested, and October the fields are burning, all that stubble and all that will happen now, where everyone will say the air is getting spoiled. Because what happens is once the field is burnt in November, there is what is called as the Rabi crop which is planted. And the harvesting of the Rabi crop, the crop takes about 2 or 3 months to grow. The harvesting of that Rabi crop happens in the month of February and March. So if supposing like the rest of the world, you followed January to December, what would happen? You would have the kharcha pertaining to the Rabi crop, that is the winter crop, in the months of October and November, which would be one financial year. And uski jo kamai hoti hai, or whatever the income you get from the Rabi crop, which comes in February and March, in another financial year. You don't need to be an accountant to understand that if you show the kharcha in 1 year and you show the kamai in another year, it is stupid accounting. So to ensure that the income that is from harvesting or reaping the crop and harvest and putting the raw materials, putting the seeds, all the farmer doing all that activity which is happening in October, November, to ensure that both happens in the same accounting period, we follow the financial year as 1st April to 31st March. Please go and ask your chartered accountant friends this question, and I'm sure he will not be able to answer without referring to Google. So in India, why do we follow 1st April to 31st March? It is because of agricultural reasons that the Rabi crop, that is the second crop after the rains are over, Rabi shuru hoga, wo pehle to kya karega, wo cattle, they will burn the fields, they will do all that, so stubble burning, and then the fields are again fresh and new. They will plant the winter crop. That winter crop will get harvested in February, March after 2 or 3 months. So to ensure that the accounting happens in the same year, in India, we follow the financial year as 1st April to 31st March. So this is not finance, this is economics, but I wanted to give you an overall picture. So I'll just summarize what I've done so far. We started with why finance from an individual perspective. We said that as long as the inflow of money is greater than the outflow of money, you're all right. There is relatively little you can do on the inflow side. There is more you can do on the outflow side. And understanding money and finance is not difficult. A company needs to pay back the government, whom it pays taxes, that is GST, and on the profit it pays what is called as corporation tax. That is, we said that 10 rupees is the selling price, 8 rupees was the cost. So 2 rupees is the profit. On 2 rupees, it will pay corporation tax, which is the income tax that a company pays. Employees need to be paid salaries. Suppliers need to be paid for the services. They are either goods or services that they have provided to the company. The lenders will get interest and their principal back. The shareholders get the return. After all, these people have got their return. And we also understood the difference between profit and cash. The simple way I want you to remember this is 50 lakhs has gone into your bank account. 50 lakhs is your sales. Let us say that you have spent 38 lakhs. 12 lakhs is your profit. You will actually find out your profit only when you sit and like a Munshi ji, you prepare your accounts. Law allows you up to 31st May to do it. So वो आपको 15 May तक मालूम पड़ेगा. After the year is over, supposing you're preparing your accounts once a year. But the cash is generated on a daily basis, because on a daily basis, money is coming into your bank account and money is going on your bank account. So you can't keep that cash idle. That cash is used in your business. So understand that in any business, cash is what is actually the balance left in your balance sheet. If you don't do anything with that cash, which is a very stupid way to do business, then cash will be equal to profit. That means supposing every month you have sold, let us say 4.5 lakhs, and that is so, and 12 lakhs is the profit. Roughly every month you have made 1 lakh rupees. But companies don't operate like that, which means if you spend more cash, then what is your profit? The company may have a serious problem of cash. So profit is not equal to cash. Profit is an accountant's number. It is nothing else than an accountant's number. The reality is how much cash do you have? And when it came to a government also needs to spend, and it needs to get money from somewhere. Fortunately for the government, you and I can't print money. But fortunately for this government, in India, we don't do that. We borrow money. But borrowing money creates a problem of paying interest. Printing money, which is what the United States and few other countries of the world do, there is no restriction. Till 1975, there was something called the gold standard, which meant that you could not print more currency than the amount of gold that you had. But that died a natural death when America started blindly printing currency, and there is no restriction on the amount of currency you can print. And this statement of the government is called a budget. It is a financial statement of the inflows and outflows. There is, in most countries of the world, there is what is called as a deficit. A deficit means आपके खर्चे ज़्यादा है आपकी income से. So you have to either print money or you have to borrow money. I'll be happy to take questions.
Sir, Faisal, yes. Let's restrict to the G20 or 21 countries. So
Yeah.
Are you saying no country has a positive, has
Yes.
no deficit apart from China?
China has a surplus. All the other countries, especially, see what you and I, when we prepare our personal budget, what do? We start with the income side. कि भैया हम supposing 1 lakh रुपया salary से कमा रहे हैं, दूसरा सपोजिंग अपना इन्वेस्टमेंट से अपने को 10,000 15,000 आ रहा है, उसमें से हमको खर्चा निकालना है. गवर्नमेंट का बजटिंग क्या ऐसा होता है? फर्स्ट द डिफेंस मिनिस्टर विल से टू द फाइनेंस मिनिस्टर, आई वांट सो मेनी लाख करोड़. द एग्रीकल्चर मिनिस्टर विल से मुझे इतनी सब्सिडीज देना है. सो द बजट इज ड्रिवन बाय द एक्सपेंडिचर. देन द फाइनेंस मिनिस्टर विल के सब लोग को 40 लाख करोड़ चाहिए. अब मेरे पास पैसा किधर से आने वाला है? इनकम टैक्स से आने वाला है, जीएसटी से आने वाला है. सो देयर इज एवरी कंट्री इन द वर्ल्ड except China and occasionally Japan. Japan is this way or that way, but every other country in the world, including the United States of America, has what is called as deficit financing. Deficit financing means your kharcha is more than your inflow, because please understand this kharcha is not negotiable. Supposing we don't spend on defense, supposing we don't spend on subsidies, supposing we don't spend on oil, your economy is going to halt. So in government budgeting, it is the expenditure which drives the budget. In our personal budget, हमको जितनी कमाई होती है उससे ही हमने खर्चे काटेंगे, बराबर. In governments, it's not like that. It is first the expenditure is decided, and then the finance minister job is how is she going to get the money for it. Okay, right?
Noted, sir.
Any other questions? Guys, I just want to tell you that please don't be intimidated by the way I speak, because I speak like a professor. I am a very my wife keeps on telling me कि आप बड़े डरावनी रीत से बात करते हो, लोगों को डर लगता है आपको क्वेश्चन पूछने के लिए. Faisal knows me well, so he is asking questions. I am a very soft person. और दूसरी चीज, ये अपने मन से निकाल दो कि ये बहुत स्टूपिड क्वेश्चन है, क्योंकि फाइनेंस की दुनिया में कोई भी स्टूपिड क्वेश्चन नहीं होता है. So please don't get intimidated to speak to me. I'm a very soft and mild person. It's only because I'm passionate about this subject. So मेरे से डरना मत, क्योंकि मैं बहुत सॉफ्ट आदमी हूँ. आप जो भी क्वेश्चन पूछेंगे मैं जवाब दूंगा, राइट? बिकॉज माय वाइफ कीप्स ऑन टेलिंग मी कि आप बहुत डरावनी रीत से बात करते हो, लोगों को डरा दोगे आप जैसे बात करते हो. तो इट्स नॉट लाइक दैट एट ऑल. आई एम अ वेरी सॉफ्ट एंड माइल्ड पर्सन. So you don't feel that any question is a stupid question. So please feel free to ask me questions. Okay, let's move on. We come to two words, that is finance.
Excuse me, sir. Firoz Khan here.
Yeah, Firoz ji, बताइए.
Thanks for clarifying that you are a soft person. So
Yeah, I'd like to see what you look like, Firoz. Can you put on your camera?
it would be better because I'm at my home.
अच्छा ठीक है, बोलो. हाँ ठीक है, बोलो. आपका क्वेश्चन पूछो सर.
My question was, it's a general question. Like as you mentioned that the budget of India is around, the income is around 24 lakh crores and the expenditure is around 40 lakh crores.
Yeah.
And we have a deficit of 16 lakh crores.
Yeah.
And if we see it, it's a very high percentage, like, and everywhere you are mentioning everybody is going in the same direction.
Yes.
So at the end of the day, when does this deficit get over, or we are moving into a debt trap?
In India, I have been hearing for the last 40 years that we will come to a balanced budget, और usually वो 10 साल की बात करते हैं, लेकिन मुझे मुश्किल लगता है बॉस.
हाँ, तो वो ऐसा वही, are we moving into a debt trap, and what are the consequences of
in
that?
India we are far from a debt trap, because you know the deficit is still only about 5 or 6% of the GDP.
Acha.
So it's about, like, say 24 lakh crores is about 10% of the GDP. In the places like United States and all that, the deficit, our cumulative deficit also, 24 lakh crores is only this year's deficit. But our cumulative deficit is about 100 lakh crores, which is still 40-50% of the GDP.
Okay.
Our GDP is about 250 lakh crores. GDP means the total value of goods and services produced. But in places like America and all, it is 120% of the GDP. That means the total borrowing is more than the GDP.
But still, if we keep borrowing at this rate, won't this lead to, in future,
so that
maybe
that is the worry, that borrowing से ज़्यादा America में problem है printing money. So you see what is happening in America today. In America, out of 6 people, 1 person has not paid his electricity bill. There are people who are looting shops. Especially in America, हमारे इंडिया में बोलते हैं रिच और पुअर में गैप है, क्योंकि जो हमको सिखाया जाता है वही है. लेकिन don't forget that the blacks in America live a very pitiful existence. It's only that it never gets mentioned, और उनका क्या है कि वो एक उनको एक साइकोलॉजी दी है कि पहले खर्चे करो और लोन मिल जाएगा आपको। अभी खाने के लिए वो लोन लेते हैं।
Yeah, that
इंडिया
is,
में
I
खाने के
mean,
लिए कोई लोन नहीं लेता है। हमारे लिए हमको क्या
हाँ,
सिखाया जाता है कि भैया खाली घर के लिए लोन लो और पढ़ाई के लिए लोन लो।
बराबर।
अमेरिका
They
में
have,
तो
they follow the concept of living beyond their means, like.
एब्सोल्युटली। सो व्हाट आर दे
हाँ,
डूइंग? लाइक यू सेड, दे आर लिविंग ऑफ द फ्यूचर।
बराबर। But sir, I am more concerned about our situation, like.
Our situation, I agree, it is to
हाँ,
a non-economist it would look very frightening,
yeah.
but generally ये 50-60% is considered nothing till you reach the level of the GDP. It's not
Mhm.
considered ये.
No, but if we move on at this rate,
I
will
agree.
very soon reach this.
I agree, but you know, let's hope for the better. That's the only thing we
Okay,
can say
okay,
here.
okay.
क्योंकि
Thank you, sir.
बहुत
Thank you, sir.
सोल्यूशन क्या है? सोल्यूशन है तुम डिफेंस में तो कम खर्चा कम नहीं। दूसरी एक हमने बहुत गलत चीज की है।
Mhm.
I can tell you, I don't want to say galat or non-galat. I'm sorry, I don't want to get into politics because that's the last
Yeah.
thing. You know, today 60% of our people are getting free food. अब मैं मुझे
Mhm.
मुझे मुझे कोविड के टाइम पे एक ऑटो वाला छोड़ने ऑफिस में आता था रोज। वो
Mhm.
आने का बंद कर दिया। मैंने उसको पूछा क्या हो गया भाई साहब, आज आते नहीं है आप? वो उसका नाम जाकिर है। मैं बोला जाकिर भाई
Mhm.
आप आते नहीं? तो बोलता है सर मोदी जी की वजह से हमको अभी खाली 4 घंटा दिन में काम करना पड़ता है। मेरे घर पे एक बाई आती है कपडे करने को। वो बोलते
Mhm.
साहेब मी तुमच्या घरामध्येच येणार, बाकीचे 2 घरीमध्ये नाही जाते आता, ते साहेब बरोबर नाही, साहेब मॅडम बरोबर नाही, तुमच्या घरी मी येते खाली। तो लोगों ने
Mhm.
कहा कि भैया अभी अभी मेरे को विचार करो कि जो भी गवर्नमेंट आगे 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 पर विच गवर्नमेंट विल हैव द गट्स टू स्टॉप दिस। तो हमारे
Mhm.
लोग भी ग्रेट है ना, फ्री में खाना मिलता है तो काम कम कर देते, 16 घंटे से सीधा वो 4 घंटे पे आ गया काम करने से। So
No,
this is
that's the
the
wrong
problem.
policy. Another thing is, I think I feel another matter of concern is the corruption level. Say, for
Absolutely.
example, if you look at a project, say of a construction of a flyover, say if it costs around 100 crores, around at least 40% of it goes into bribes and all. So that is
सर ये
a
तो सब
major burden on this thing.
ये सब डिस्कशन में जाएंगे तो सर तो 6 बजे तक मुझे लेक्चर करना पड़ेगा आज।
ठीक
चलो
है सर,
आगे
चलो,
चलते
okay, no
हैं।
problem. You can go ahead.
हाँ, but I completely
Okay,
agree with you. I
okay,
completely
okay.
agree with you, and without sounding political, I don't want to get into politics because I think all politicians are chores. But
Yes,
I
yes.
will tell you that ये सब जो पेपर में आप सुनते हो कुछ भी on the ground nothing has changed. Okay,
Yeah.
I can tell you
Absolutely,
nothing
absolutely,
has changed. In fact, things have got
absolutely.
worse. Okay,
हाँ, and
okay,
that's what I'm saying. यानी वो
yeah.
60% भी लोगों को बोल रहे हैं, लेकिन एक्चुअल कितना पहुंच रहा है, nobody knows.
एग्जैक्टली ये सब
Okay,
क्या है
okay.
ना
Thank
भैया,
you.
वो अभी मीडिया भी खरीदी जा सकती है ना भैया,
हाँ, that is the issue, main issue.
राइट? और
Okay,
and
thank you
how
so
many
much, sir.
people are really see do people like you and me really have the time? We are fighting our daily battles, boss.
Yeah, that's for
You
sure.
accept these idiots who come at 9 o'clock on TV and incidentally they get paid good amounts and they fight with each other, माँ बहन की गाली देते हैं और फिर साथ में जाके दारू पीते हैं,
Yes.
right? So
Yeah,
let's
yeah.
not get into that area. Okay, finance
Okay,
and
okay.
accounts. I normally would ask you, but Firoz, I like the way you're interacting with me. I would request even the others to do so.
Okay. Thank you
Finance
so much,
and
sir.
please understand, finance is the actual transaction. अब accounts का मतलब क्या है? Supposing आप 3 दिन ऑफिस से दांडी मार के जाते हो, और supposing, let me make it interesting. Supposing you're in marketing एंड आपका एक कस्टमर गोवा में है, पैसा नहीं दे रहा है आपको, तो आपके बॉस को फायरिंग मिलता है डायरेक्टर से। वो आपको बोलता है आप इमीडिएट फ्लाइट पकड़ो, गोवा जाओ। वो किधर, उसके गांव में, गोवा के गांव में उसकी फैक्ट्री है, वहां पे मोबाइल फोन कुछ चलता नहीं है। तो आप चले जाते हैं वहां पे, यू गो ऑन अ ट्यूसडे मॉर्निंग। नाउ दैट यू आर वेरी लकी बिकॉज दैट डे दैट फेलो हैज गॉट सम मनी एंड योर चेक इज इमीडिएटली रेडी। तो आपको चेक लेके ट्यूसडे नाइट ओनली यू हैव टू टेक द फ्लाइट बैक एंड कम टू ऑफिस ऑन वेडनेसडे। लेकिन आप सोचते हैं कि भैया कंपनी ने सोचा था 3-4 दिन लगेंगे, मेरा 5 स्टार होटल में बुकिंग किया है, गोवा इज अ नाइस प्लेस मजा करने के लिए, तो आप उधर 3 दिन टाइम पास करते हो, वेडनेसडे थर्सडे फ्राइडे कंपनी के खर्चे पे। सैटरडे ऐसे भी 4th सैटरडे है, छुट्टी है, संडे को छुट्टी है, आप मंडे को ऑफिस आते हो। अब अनफॉर्चुनेटली फॉर यू, your boss has got a call from that fellow saying that I have given the money to your person, I have given the money to Firoz, and तो आप जब मंडे आपका बॉस सोचता है, वेडनेसडे को देखता है भैया फिरोज आया कि नहीं चेक लेके, फिर थर्सडे को, तो फर्स्ट वेडनेसडे ही becomes one color of red, Thursday he is another color of red, by Friday he is violet, और मंडे को जैसे ही आप ऑफिस में आते हो वो आपको बोलेगा गिव मी एन अकाउंट ऑफ व्हाट यू हैव डन. मींस व्हाट इज ही टेलिंग यू? इंग्लिश में बता रहा हूं. ही इज टेलिंग यू कि भैया मुझे बताओ आपने क्या किया है. तो अकाउंट्स इज नथिंग एल्स बट टेलिंग यू व्हाट द बिजनेस हैज डन. अकाउंट्स इज कम्युनिकेशन. अकाउंट्स टेल्स यू कि भैया बिजनेस ने कितना बेचा है, कितना खरीदा है, क्या प्रॉफिट की है. सो finance is a decision making process. Don't be too surprised if in 5 to 10 years you won't have any accountants, because accounts can be done by artificial intelligence. मैंने तकरीबन LNT में 500 से 700 बिकॉज वो आजकल सबको क्या सिखाया जाता है कि भैया इधर SAP में ये एंट्री मारो या अपना वो जो दूसरा सॉफ्टवेयर है उसमें ये एंट्री मारो. वो बेसिक अकाउंट्स तो किसी को सिखा नहीं जाता है. So accountant's job is going to become redundant. Accountant will only be there when the company wants to manipulate profits. And how to can manipulate profits? Either by showing more income or by showing less expenses. Right? Because what is profit? Profit is income minus expenses. अभी एक सिंपल चीज आपको बता देता हूं. ये सब कॉम्प्लेक्स चीज तो बाद में थोड़ा जाएंगे, लेकिन एक सिंपल चीज है कि आप प्रॉफिट कैसे बढ़ा सकते हो. समझो आपका कोई सप्लायर ने आपके लिए 10 लाख का काम किया है. आप क्या कर सकते हो? सप्लायर ने जैसे ही बिल दिया आपका फाड़ के फेंक दो, उसका अकाउंटिंग ही मत करो. सिंपल हो गया, आपका प्रॉफिट 10 लाख से बढ़ गया. वो बेचारा अकाउंटेंट 2 महीने के बाद वो बेचारा सप्लायर 2 महीने के बाद आएगा तो आप बोलेंगे नहीं नहीं ये अकाउंट्स वाले हमारे ऐसे ही है, वो बिल घुमा देते हैं, आप नया दूसरा बिल दो. वो टाइम तक क्या हो गया, आपका मार्च हो गया है, आपका अकाउंटिंग ईयर कंप्लीट हो गया है, तो अगले साल में वो खर्चा लेके जाओ. सो इट इज एज सिंपल एज दैट you hide the supplier's bill, you put it under the drawer, you tear it, you don't record that expense at all. But whom are you cheating? You are cheating yourself, because what are you doing? You are pushing your expenses to the next year, right? And this is easier to do when the guy is giving you a service. Supposing I am giving in a lecture in L&T, let us say I give a 2-day lecture, my bill is 1 lakh rupees, and that HR department has been told कि अभी और कुछ खर्चा नहीं करना है. वो क्या करेगा? वो मेरा बिल घुमा देगा. 2 महीने के बाद आएगा, बोलेगा सर आपका बिल घूम गया, एक वापस कॉपी दो ना बिल का आपका. So this becomes a little difficult now with GST and all that, but the simplest way to increase your profit is by not showing expenses. Okay, so please understand that finance is a live activity. Accounts is always a post-mortem. Accounts involves the preparation of 2 statements, that is profit or loss account, and the second statement is the balance sheet. And the study of the P&L and the balance sheet is an area of finance. Why am I going through quickly with all this is because there are some slides which when they come out well, you feel very happy. So I want you to understand all that I've told you in the previous 2 slides can be reflected in this graph, in this diagram. Ye diagram aap dekhiye. Finance is the actual transaction. And imagine this is a dial of a clock. अपने घड़ी का ये watch है. So you go in a clockwise direction. That is, you go from left to right. So finance recording, जो नीचे arrow है, finally every finance transaction gets recorded into profit or loss account and balance sheet, which becomes an area of accounts. Now accounts बना के आपको analyze तो करना है. एक simple analysis करोगे कि भैया profit कितना है या loss है, बराबर है. So that analysis, which is going from 6 o'clock to 12 o'clock on the clock, is again an area of finance. So ये चक्कर समझ लो आप. Finance is the actual transaction. It is always before the accounting transaction. Please understand that if there is no financial transaction, what will you account? Even if you do one small transaction, that is buy a bottle of water for your business, there is still a financial transaction. आपको 10 रुपए का खर्चा बताना पड़ेगा और 10 रुपया कंपनी से पैसा जाएगा, बैंक अकाउंट से 10 रुपया कंपनी से जाएगा और आपका खर्चा 10 रुपया होगा. So finance is the actual transaction. Buying goods, selling goods, borrowing money, every single thing is a financial transaction. Accounts is merely recording that transaction. Accounts, remember the word, give me an account of what you have done. So what does the accounts do? The accounts tells you, the account communicates to you what has been the performance of the business. And you can't stop there because accounts को आप analysis करोगे which is done in ratio analysis, which maybe we'll do some other time. But wo analysis aap karoge, so it again becomes an area of finance. So that is how the circle is completed. So finance is the transaction, accounts is always after finance. Finance is the horse, accounts is the cart, because you cannot have accounts without a financial transaction. And accounts ke jo koi bhi transaction hai, finally get reflected in the profit or loss account and the balance sheet. And analysis of that profit or loss account and balance sheet, where you will calculate ratios, you will see what is your profit ratio, you will see what is your manufacturing cost ratio, what is your interest cost ratio, what is your employee cost ratio, all that again becomes an area of finance. So normally in a company, the chartered accountant prepares the accounts, and the MBA finance or the finance or the smart guys who are there, or the people who are in the stock market, who are the MBAs and all that, they will analyze the accounts to find out what was the profit last year, what is it this year. That again becomes an area of finance. So have you understood? I'll be happy to take questions. So whenever you use the word finance and accounts, please understand that what the business does is finance.
Sir, Faisal here.
Yeah.
I'll let someone else. He has raised the question.
Yeah, please. Chat में मत डालो यार, मैं chat नहीं देखता हूँ क्योंकि मुझे फिर वो presentation के बाहर जाना पड़ता है.
Anybody wants to ask a question? Yeah, friend, go on. You are not well audible.
Yeah, audible to you, because I'm not sure if I'm audible now.
Yeah, you're audible, but please speak a little slowly.
Okay, so as you rightly mentioned that in case you want to increase your profit, you don't show expenses.
Yeah.
And now with GST, it's become a lot more difficult because of the artificial intelligence and the way all records are being done. In fact, you yourself have to become a police to see that your suppliers and you are following everything or not. Just wanted to check now, since accountants have also come under PMLA to ensure that all financial transactions are above board.
Yes, it does. But you know, one thing about GST is, you know, unfortunately, that a lot of people a lot of these small businessmen, remember that there is a GST limit of 20 lakhs. So now there is a very, very prominent Kirana wala near my house. You'll be shocked to hear this. But on Monday, he gives you a bill of a different company. On Tuesday, he gives you a bill in a different entity. On Wednesday, he gives you a bill of a third entity to ensure that he stays under 20 lakhs.
True. But now,
with GST, it will progressively get difficult.
Right. And of course, with the artificial intelligence, it's become a lot more easier for the red flags to be raised, which is there.
Absolutely. And I'm glad you raised this question because, you know, I personally believe that GST is not an indirect tax. It is because if you see your GST number, if you're doing business, your GST number incorporates your PAN number. So
exactly.
what the government will do, if in Excel, you know, you have a function called VLOOKUP. So they will list and they will just put a comment of your PAN number and see how much of what you have said you have sold, you have put in your income tax or vice versa.
Right. And as you mentioned about the ratio, that's something which has come up because I'm a director in the trust also.
Yeah.
Nations, they have done an analysis of against their income to see if it's skewed or if it's in sync to their income, and notices automatically are going across to prove how come they have so much donation when the income does not suffice.
Absolutely. You know, my Rakhi sister Manawa Ben, she runs a cake shop from her home, you know. So her electricity bill comes to 20,000-30,000 rupees a month. She got a love letter from the income tax saying that what is your income if you're spending so much in electricity, and then she had to give an explanation. So not only do they have, so from the expenses they are able to link, you know. That is why, you know, anything more than 50,000 you buy, you have to give your PAN number.
Very true. And in fact, my CA has now told me that they are populating your report. They're preparing your income tax report. And
absolutely.
If you are not agreeing to it,
see, logically, you know, I know we are deviating and we might not have enough time to explain this, But if you follow the new scheme of taxation, which is that you don't get any deductions, the government has promised in 2 years they will give you your return and you will just have to sign and give it back.
Exactly. They have already started showing that, and
Yeah,
they are now giving the benefit that is up to 7 lakhs.
Yeah.
This year it's voluntarily if you want to come back to old tax, but we know how the government works, so it's going to make it compulsory.
No, it will become compulsory, but the only see, please understand that in today's times it doesn't make sense. In the good old days, you should have one bank, small cooperative bank account which was not computerized. You would have it somewhere in your gav and you would put 30-40 lakhs, or you would put some money in the name of your children. All those days are gone, because once they came out with this Form 26 software, everything is, your whole kundli is available at the click of a button, whatever crimes you have done, it will be available at the click of a button, So I personally, even हमारे L&D में क्या होता है, people fudge on the HRA, they give HRA receipts and all that. They give it in the name of the mother, So all that information also is available to them now,
And that already they have sent notices to show the
so
HRA
it doesn't
receipts.
work, it doesn't work. Let's come to a little part which I would say is the most challenging part of the presentation. Okay, and this is where I think you need to think a little differently, and this is the most important part. There are about 40 to 50 principles which unfortunately my CA final students have to learn. I don't want you to, because you don't have to appear for an exam for a chartered accountant. Also, I'm going to share the slide so you don't remember this by heart. You don't also have to remember the order and all that. What I always say is understand by head. Now, please understand the first principle is what? We are going to talk about 6 principles which over the last 40 years of teaching, I have reduced the 70-80 principles to 6, which you cannot avoid. The first thing you must remember, gentlemen, is that you are not preparing the accounts of the proprietor. You are preparing the accounts of the business of the proprietor. I'll give you an example. Outside our gate number 1 in Powai, where I used to work in L&T, there was one chap called Tiwari. He started with a small business of giving tea and bhajiyas, and his business did so well. His growth rate was much more than L&T, by the way. Then he started a forklift business. Then he started a tempo business. And now finally he's done the best business. He's opened one mandir. So now he has got 3 or 4 businesses. Please remember that whenever you are preparing accounts, you are not preparing the accounts of the proprietor. You are preparing the accounts of the business of the proprietor. So if supposing there are 2 different businesses of, say, a tea stall and a tempo business, you will have to prepare 2 separate set of accounts. And you are not preparing the accounts of the proprietor, Tiwari. You are preparing the accounts of that specific business of the proprietor. Okay. Now, in the case of a company, it's very clear to understand that a company prepares the accounts and the shareholders are different. But even if you are running your own business, please remember that you are not preparing your accounts. You are preparing the accounts of your business. So the business has what is called as a separate legal entity. The other thing is that a business is supposed to have an infinite existence. The business is like samay, it is infinite. It is supposed to continuously continue. And related to this is the third principle, which people find difficult to understand. We accountants, we are supposed to be the most conservative, the most pessimistic, the people who think that dunya mein sabse kharab cheez hone wali hai. Okay, that the world is going to end. So what we are taught is that recognize losses at the earliest, profits only when certain. Now, what does this mean? This means, supposing as a businessman, or supposing I am in the business of, let me say what? Let me say gold. Okay, I'm a goldsmith, and I have bought gold at, say, 50,000 rupees a tola. Okay. Now, thanks to the market price, the gold price on 31st March falls down to 40,000 rupees. I am supposed to recognize that loss of 10,000 in my books of accounts and show that loss as an expense. But conversely, if on 31st March, the price of gold goes up to 60,000 rupees, I am not supposed to show that gain. I am supposed to show my inventory. This is my inventory, remember, that gold, which I have not been able to sell. I am supposed to show it at cost or market value, whichever is lower. Now I told you that it went lower. So I brought down that inventory to 40 rupees in my accounts and I've taken that 10 rupees loss. Now next year, supposing that gold goes up to 60 rupees, sorry, because of the principle of going concern, which means you don't know when exactly you are going to sell the gold or what price at which you are going to sell the gold, you are supposed to keep it at 40. You cannot even bring it up to 60. For example, you must have heard of this company called Godrej. Now, Godrej has got acres and acres of land on both sides of the Eastern Express Highway. In fact, they gave the land free to the government to build the highway. Of course, they benefited from it. That's another story. But any company is supposed to record things like this, which are called assets. I'll come to assets when I talk to you about balance sheet. A company is supposed to record the assets at cost or market value, whichever is lower. So when Godrej had bought this land, maybe the price was 1,000 rupees an acre. Today it might be a few lakh rupees an acre, but in the balance sheet of Godrej, this will be recorded at cost. For example, L&T has a building called L&T House. It was bought in 1957 from a company called ICI, that is the company that makes Dulux paints, for 1 crore rupees. There is something called depreciation, which I'll come to. You will be surprised to hear this, but the market value of that house, of that building might be 50 crore rupees or 100 crore rupees or even more. But in the balance sheet of L&T, because of this principle of conservatism, it is recorded at cost less depreciation. It is recorded only at 1 rupee in the balance sheet. Now, if you're thinking of buying company shares, etc., a lot of old companies who have got old investments like land, buildings, which they have bought, like State Bank of India, they have got a lot of old property. At one time, even L&T had 300 flats. Now, remember that they are recorded in the accounts at the original price at which they were purchased. So old companies usually have an advantage of this. So because both these principles are to be read together, conservatism means you have to record losses at the earliest and profits only when they are certain. So finally, if the jeweler is able to sell his gold, which has gone up from, he has recorded it 50, say 40 ho gaya. So he has, in the accounts, he is supposed to show it at 40. Now it went up to 60. Next year, it went up to 70. When he finally sells that gold, that is the only time he can take the profit. And what profit will he take? 70 minus 40. Because he has already taken the loss once and brought it down to 40. Okay. So you're supposed, like for example, God forbid, but if L&T wants to sell L&T House, please understand that whatever it sells it for, say 100 crores, minus 1 rupee will be the profit, but that you can take only when you have sold it. Not otherwise. Okay. So this principle is what people find very surprising, that you cannot take profits even though they are very apparent. अभी आपको तो मालूम है कि भैया 1 रुपए से तो ज्यादा मिलने वाला है L&T House बेचोगे तो, लेकिन you cannot take it into the accounts unless it is certain. Okay. And when does it become certain? When you convert it to cash. That is when you sell it. Consistency means you have to follow the same accounting policy on a year-to-year basis. Now, there are different things in accountancy, like depreciation is one of the things I'll come to, or there are methods of valuing your inventory. There are different methods of valuing your closing inventory or closing stock. There are different methods. What the accounting principle says, that ideally, once you start a policy, once you define a policy, you should not change it. But nothing prevents a company from changing it, provided what the accounting institute says is that you have to disclose it in the accounts. So supposing you are following method X of, say, depreciation. I know I haven't explained depreciation to you. I'll come to it in after a slide or two. You are following method X. by which the depreciation is 5 lakh rupees. And because you don't want to take 5 lakh rupees, because it's too much, your management tells you that we can't take this cost of 5 lakh rupees this year. You change the method of depreciation and you take depreciation only of 2 lakh rupees. Now what has happened? An expense of 5 lakhs, through a change in an accounting policy, you have reduced it to 2 lakhs. So indirectly, you have taken expenses of 3 lakhs lower. So when you take expenses lower, your profit is higher. So what the accountant is supposed to do is, he is supposed to mention in the accounts that the company had a method of depreciation. It was following this XYZ method of depreciation, under which on a year-to-year basis, 5 lakh rupees depreciation was charged. This year, the company has changed this policy, and consequently, as a change of that policy, depreciation of only 2 lakh rupees has been charged. And as a result of this, expenses are lower by 3 lakhs and the profits are higher by 3 lakhs. Now this has to be mentioned, including what you have done, how much is the financial impact, both in the profit or loss and in the valuation. You're supposed to mention this. Unfortunately, it does not tell you where you have to put it in the accounts. So if you are a good accountant, you will put it in such a place, in such a prominent place, that even a person who doesn't know anything about accounts will be read it and say, "Ke bhaiya, iske wajah se profit 3 lakh se bada hai." But if you don't want your shareholders to know, or you don't want the readers of your financial statement to know, you will put it on page 350 of the accounts, where no one is going to find the time and the patience to read it. So this is the qualitative part of accounts. Because unfortunately, the law doesn't tell you. What it tells you is that you should mention the change in accounting policy in a reasonable way. And unfortunately, reasonable is a very unreasonable word. You don't know what is reasonable. How do you define what is reasonable? So this leeway has been left. In India, when we make laws, we also give enough ideas to the people who want to interpret the laws in their own way. So the policy says that you must disclose it, but it doesn't tell you that you should disclose it on the face of the profit or loss account or in page 1 of the profit or loss account. If you are a good, decent accountant, you want your shareholders to be communicated effectively, you will tell them and put it right under your profit or loss account, where even a blind man will be able to see it. But if you are a chalu accountant and you don't want your people to know, "Ke bhaiya, maine aise karke 3 lakh profit badha diya hai," you will put it on page 350 in the accounts. The concept of accrual is, it is not important when you pay the money. For example, some companies have a policy that the salaries for the month of, say, which month are we in? For October, or say the salaries for September are paid in the next month. So the salaries for September will be paid on 7th October. Now that does not mean that it is not an expense of September. Just because you're paying it in October doesn't mean that it is not an expense of September. Why are you paying salaries? You are paying salaries because that guy is giving you his time, energy, and more importantly, his brain power. So it is an expense for September. You have to record it in the month of September. So if you have not paid it, you will still have to show it as an expense for September, supposing you're preparing a separate profit or loss account for September. And the last part, which convinces me that anybody can do accounts, is a very simple aspect called dual aspect. And why do I say, and I've told you this 3 times, that anybody can do accounts? Because the first accountant in the world, remember, was not a chartered accountant. In fact, he was a man who never went to school. The first accountant in the world was an Italian monk by the name of Father Luca Pacchioli. That's his picture. Now, this gentleman, Luca Pacchioli, and if you see in his left hand, that's probably the first accounts book in the world. He was a great friend of the famous painter, Leonardo da Vinci, who all of us have heard of. But none of us have heard about this gentleman. And the greatness of this gentleman is that this theory of accountancy which he gave, remember when he died in 1517. So 500 years pehle, right? 506 years pehle. Still, the accounting system with all computers, all artificial intelligence, as our friend Chen mentioned, with all that, has still not been able to find a better system. So which is the beauty of this system is that every single transaction you do, like buying a bottle of water for your company, has two equal and opposite effects. So every transaction you do, I'll give you a simple example. Supposing you buy a bottle of water for your company, one effect will be that this is a kharcha, so it will hit your profit or loss account as an expense. As a result, your expenses are more by 10 rupees. Your profit is lower by 10 rupees. On the other side, what will happen? That 10 rupees cash is gone out from your business. So your bank balance is lower by 10 rupees. So thanks to this Italian monk, Luca Pacioli, please understand that finally when you complete your accounts, remember I told you some time back that you have a profit or loss account and a balance sheet. A balance sheet has got two sides, a left-hand side and a right-hand side. Both the sides of the balance sheet will tally, will be the same. Because every single transaction you do has two effects. I'll give you a small transaction that if you, as I told you, 10 rupiah aapne kharcha kiya, 10 rupiah is an expense. Your profit will be lower by 10 rupees. You bought a bottle of water. And on the other side, the cash that is going out of business will reduce your bank balance by 10 rupees. Right? We'll understand more when we come to balance sheet. So I'll repeat the principles and I'll take questions, but limited number of questions. I don't mind continuing late, but I'm sure some of you have other things. So you are not preparing the accounts of the proprietor. You are preparing the accounts of the business, a separate legal entity. The business is supposed to have an infinite existence. That means it is supposed to be permanently going on. Going concern means hamesha chalte lene wala hai, 1000 saal ke liye chalne wala hai, continuous existence. Conservatism means you are supposed to be a very, very khadus. You are supposed to be a very, very tough person. You are supposed to recognize all losses immediately. Like I gave you the example of gold. 50 rupees has become 40 rupees. Immediately take 10 rupees as a loss. But if 50 becomes 60, don't take it unless you sell it. Consistency means follow the same accounting policy on a year-to-year basis. Accrual means not when you pay, but for what period your accounting is. For example, salaries if you pay in October, that doesn't mean it's not an expense for September. And finally, every single transaction that you do, thanks to the Italian monk, this gentleman whom no one knows about, Father Luca Pacioli, great friend of Leonardo da Vinci, one of them known very well, the other unknown. But this, like the Mona Lisa, which even today people 500 years later look at, this man also needs to be remembered. Because 500 years later, with all computerization, with all artificial intelligence, still his basic system of accounting is followed. So I'll be happy to take questions.
Excuse me, sir. Can you, this is Samir here.
Yeah,
the
Samir.
point of conservatism, I just would like to, can you just same point again, where the example you had said that if the cost of the gold was at 40 and it comes to 30 the next year, the losses will be accounted for, and if the next year the costs go to the price goes to 60, then that profit of 20 is not accounted for. It stays
Absolutely.
It remains at 40.
Yes. No, it will stay at, see, if it comes down to 30, you will have to take a further loss of 10.
Okay. So
and keep and 30. Now, when it goes up to 60, you cannot do it unless you convert it to cash and you sell it.
Correct, sir. But when it is converted into cash at 60, so the implications will be for 20 or the implications will be for 30?
30, because you have already taken the loss of 10.
All right, I appreciate that. Thank you, sir.
Right? So, if supposing it has gone down to 40 to 30 in the year 2, then you have to take further that loss of 10 in that year, right? So the value of gold in your accounts becomes what? 30? Now, correct, you convert that gold from 30, you convert it to 60 in cash, right? So there is a profit of 30. Right? Am I clear? Yeah.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Anything else?
Sir, Faisal,
Yeah, Faisal.
conservatism में आप L&T का example दिए. So when somebody sells that property,
Yeah.
तो profit तो बहुत ज़्यादा हो गया. Then he has to pay a tax for that bigger profit. No?
Yes, yes,
So
yes.
whatever principle you wrote, are they law or
But
just
remember,
guidelines? Huh?
but remember that when you take the expenses, you also get those expenses as a deduction and reduce the profit.
But sir, expenses तो कम बताया ना हमने.
नहीं, आपने सपोजिंग L&T हाउस एक करोड़ में लिया है. तो हर साल आप डेप्रिसिएशन समझो 10 लेते हो. वो डेप्रिसिएशन इज अलाउड टू यू एज अ खर्चा.
Okay.
So that time you are reducing profits.
Correct.
So that is allowed as a खर्चा.
अच्छा. Okay.
So पहले खर्चा ले लेते हो और आप वैल्यू 0 उसका 1 रुपया कर देते हो. फिर जो भी बेचोगे वो आपका पूरा प्रॉफिट है ना. इनकम टैक्स आपको अगर खर्चे अलाउ करता है तो फिर आपको प्रॉफिट भी मारेगा ना जब भी आपको टैक्स भरना है तभी. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Excuse me, sir.
Yeah.
A question about accrual.
Yeah.
In the example that you had given for the salary to be paid for the month of September has to be taken into account if the accounts are prepared in October. Going by the
if the let me put it this way: if the salary is paid in October,
okay,
you can't say that just because I am paying it in October, it becomes an expense for October. Because please understand why you are paying salaries. You are paying salaries because the guy is giving you his time between 1st September to 30th September.
Okay, so if I just take a different month for this example, and I say that the salary was to be for the month of March, people have worked for the month of March, and the salary is paid in the month of April, so it still has to be accounted for in the month of March.
Yes.
So that's regarding an expense incurred with respect to a inflow to be received.
Income
To be received. Suppose the money was supposed to be received in the month of March, but it is not received in the month of March, but it is received in the month of April for a work done in the month of March. In that case, that still
the income will also be taken when you bill to the customer. If you bill it in March,
okay,
the income will be taken in March. It is not when the customer pays. Normally, your customer will pay you after 2 months, right?
Correct. That's what I wanted.
So the income is recognized when you bill it to the customer.
Okay, thank you, sir.
I'll tell you what some companies used to do with after GST, as Chen mentioned, has become difficult. Companies used to keep their books of accounts open till 10th April and increase their sales by showing all the sales between 1st April and 10th April on 31st March.
Okay.
But now with GST, that has become difficult. In excise, what used to happen is that the excise inspector was sitting in your office. He used to eat your food. He used to take your this thing. He used to enjoy your benefits. So he would allow you to actually bill till 7th, 10th April. He would allow you to bill as of 31st March.
Okay.
So now what happens is you are taking more income in the month of March.
Okay.
So actually you used to not close your books of accounts on the income side, on the billing side, you used to not close it till 7th April.
Understand.
But actually that was, and all that, in accounts also, we used to have what was called as a 13th period. 12 periods of accounts, and 13th period is this extra prime when the accountant is fudging. This is actually called fudging numbers, and it has nothing to do with the things that is available in Lonavala. Fudging means you are manipulating your accounts. What are you doing? Here you are taking more income. That can also increase your profit. But what are you doing? You are sacrificing 8 days of income of the next year. So your next year will start from 10th April, not from 1st April.
Correct, sir. Dual aspect.
So indirectly what happens is your accounting year has changed from 10th April to 9th April.
Correct, sir.
Because next year you will do the same thing.
Correct, sir.
So that all has been put to a stop by this GST bit, because there is computers and all that, and manipulating dates in computers becomes difficult. It's still not impossible. There are ways you can do it. You can, there in most of the accounting softwares, there is a period called 13th period, 12th period, 13th period, by which every transaction, whatever date you actually do it, will automatically give you the date of 31st March.
Oh, okay.
So SAP has for India, they have specially designed this program called 13th period and 14th period.
Understand, sir. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Okay. So let's move on. we come to out of two, remember there are only two accounting statements. We come to the first of them. Now, what I want you to understand, ladies and gentlemen, that though we use the term profit and loss account, always remember in life, it is never profit and loss account. It is always profit or loss account. You can either make a profit or you can make a loss. So I don't know why we accountants haven't changed, but we continue to call it, you can never have a profit and a loss. You can have a profit or a loss. So if you had noticed, I have always used the words when I have spoken to you, I have used the words profit or loss account. But unfortunately, across the world, it is still called profit and loss account. This is what makes it a little more confusing to people who don't know anything about accounts. So from today, you don't bother about what you're reading. You will always call it profit or loss account, because a company can make a profit or it can make a loss. It makes a profit when its income is more than its expenditure. It makes a loss when its expenditure is more than its income. The other thing is that the profit or loss account is cumulative. Now, what does cumulative mean? That whatever you sell on 1st April, now you sell on 2nd April, that has to be added to what you have sold on 1st April. Similarly, whatever are your expenses on 2nd April have to be added to your expenses on 1st April. So let me give you this example. This is a company, and this is another thing that I would like you to know, that we accountants make life difficult for normal people by calling the same thing by different names. So sales, revenue, income, top line, earnings. There's another word there. I didn't have space to put it. Otherwise, I would have put it. Sales, revenue, income, top line. Let us say are 10,000 rupees a month. This is a cement manufacturing company. It runs a very, very static kind of business. वो ओनर उसका इतना पक्का है, वो बोलता है कि मैं हर महीने 100 सीमेंट बैग बेचूंगा for 100 rupees a month, for 100 rupees per bag. That means every month I will sell 10,000 rupees worth of cement. Not one bag extra, not one bag less. This is a theoretical example, of course, so remember it that way. Now at the end of the year, what happens is 10,000 sales of April plus 10,000 sales of May plus 10,000 sales of June. वैसे करते मार्च तक वो 1,20,000 में पहुंच गया. Understand? So it is cumulative. Now the expenses are deducted from the income to call the difference called net profit. Okay. So I'm making the third or the fourth important statement for the day. And again, I want you to remember this by head for the rest of your lives. Whatever might be the nature of your business, I'm repeating, whatever might be the nature of your business, your expenses are always divided into three buckets. You will always have three buckets of expenses. Manufacturing expenses. For a company like L&T or a manufacturing company, this will be the main bucket. The second head is labor, employee, or HR related cost. That is the cost of your employees. A major portion of this is salaries. And whatever is not a manufacturing expense or not an employee related expense goes into the third pocket, that is overheads. Whatever might be the nature of your business. Now, supposing you are doing a manufacturing or a construction company like L&T, obviously your main costs are going to be manufacturing. 60-70% of your costs will be manufacturing. But supposing you are a software company like Infosys, your major cost is going to be the salaries that you pay to your employees. Supposing you are a shipping company or a transport company. In a transport company, what happens? You buy trucks. Now you don't buy trucks, you pay, you have to take them on loan. So you pay a lot of interest. So interest is not a manufacturing expense. It is not an employee related expense. It goes into the third pocket, which is called overheads. To clarify further to you and to help you to understand better, if you pay the electricity bill of a factory, it's a manufacturing expense. But if you pay the electricity bill of an office, it's an overhead. So whatever are the expenses are divided into three pockets, whatever might be the nature of the business. You know, the number 3 is very important in life. If you, and this I'm just dramatizing that you don't forget this. You have 3 states of matter, solid, liquid, gas. You have 3 states of time, yesterday, today, tomorrow. You have 3 basic needs of mankind, roti, kapda, makan. You have got 3 sectors of the economy, agriculture, services, manufacturing. You have essentially got 3 systems of education, science, commerce, humanities. Similarly, please remember in life that any business, whatever might be the nature of the business, your expenses are divided into 3 buckets. Anything to do with the physical process of manufacturing is a manufacturing expense. Imagine raw materials bought, stores and spare parts, आपका electricity bill of the factory, आपने जो मटेरियल खरीदा उसका जो आप फ्रेट इनवर्ड्स कर रहे हैं, यानी उसका जो फ्रेट आपने भरा, that is all manufacturing expenses. Whatever you are paying your employees is a labor or an employee cost. Now supposing after the guy in L&T, this is a specialty, the guy retires on 30th September and he is no longer retired, you give him his gratuity, provident fund, all that, and on 1st October he joins back as a consultant. Then that consultant's fees will not come as labor, it will come under the head overheads, because he is no longer your employee, though he might be doing the same work. Because the employer-employee relationship is over, it comes under the 3rd pocket of overheads. Guys, can you see the slide?
No, sir.
Nahin, sir.
I don't know. Again, I think the host has disabled my screen.
No, sir, I did.
Yeah, just let me check what happened to the presentation. 1 minute. Abhi dikh raha hai?
Yes. No,
Yeah, I don't know what happened. I think the machine was getting a little bored here. Okay, fine. ठीक है. So, profit or loss, आपको क्या याद रखना है? आपको बस इतना याद रखना है. Yeah.
Sir, am I audible?
Yeah, 1 minute. Yeah. So profit or loss is the earning statement. Income means क्या? पैसा जो अंदर आ रहा है वो. Expenditure means पैसा जो बाहर जा रहा है वो. How is income recorded? Income is recorded not when you get the money, it is when you bill to the customer. So that word in accounting, because we like to irritate people by calling the same thing by different names, we call it by 5 different names, that is sales, revenue, income, earnings, top line, all of which mean the same thing. Minus expenses gives you the net profit. Expenses are divided. Now expenses also, because he is selling, I mean, this is, as I told you, hypothetical. This can never happen in real life. But what I want to tell you is that the income is cumulated, the expenses are cumulated. So 10,000 per month becomes 1,20,000 for the into 12. Similarly, the manufacturing expenses 6 into 12 becomes 72, 2 into 12 becomes 24, and 1 into 12 becomes 12,000. So 120 minus 108 is your net profit. Okay, I'll come to before tax and after tax in the next slide, but I want you to understand the basic concept that the profit or loss is the earning statement. It is a statement, cumulative statement of income minus expenses. Expenses are deducted from income, and the difference is called net profit. The last point on the slide is, and I'm going to be a little unfair with you, for just one slide, I'm not going to tell you what items of a revenue nature are, but just for 2 minutes or 5 minutes, just like a parrot, remember that the profit or loss contains items of a revenue nature. Okay, just like a parrot, you remember. Come to the balance sheet, which remember is the last statement, because there are only 2 accounting statements, that is profit or loss and balance sheet. Unlike the profit or loss account, which is cumulative, the balance sheet is a position statement on a particular date. Usually, it is the last date of the period covered by the profit or loss. Not usually, always. So it is always as on 31st March. Because remember, the profit or loss account accumulates all the income up to 1st April to 31st March. It minuses all the expenses from 1st April to 31st March. एक के ऊपर एक डाला जाता है income और expenses को, और finally जो बचता है उसको profit कहते हैं. Unlike this, the balance sheet is a position statement on 31st March. What is this position statement? It has got a left-hand side, which is called a liability side. Now, the accountant's way of remembering this, the mugging up way of remembering this is left-hand side, liability side, dono L hai. The intelligent way that I would like you to understand and probably appreciate and learn this for life is, please understand that when the business owes something to somebody, if you owe something to somebody, it's not a very happy feeling. It's a bad feeling. आपको डर लगता है कि भैया ये मैं वापस दे पाऊंगा कि नहीं दे पाऊंगा. Will I be able to pay back? So the word liability, even with our basic English understanding, we can understand is a word that makes you feel unhappy. It's a word that makes you feel sad. It's a word that makes you frown. गुस्सा आता है आपको. So similarly, when the business owes something, it is called a liability. Go on the other side, the right-hand side. What the business owns is called an asset. An asset is a positive word. An asset is a word that will make you smile. If somebody calls you an asset में अच्छा feeling आता है. Psychologically, you get a great feeling if it's an asset. Similarly, when the business owns something, it is called an asset. And the three tests, again for an asset is, you can see it, you can feel it, and it has a life of more than 1 year. Now, my students teach me a lot. So when I'm saying life of more than 1 year, I don't necessarily mean 365 days. What I'm saying is that that particular asset is existing as on 31st March. At 11:59 in the night on 31st March, when you close your books of accounts, look at this computer that you're looking at. If you're running it for the business, you can see it, you can feel it. It has a life of more than 1 year because it is going to be part of your closing balance sheet on 31st March. Whatever is part of your closing balance sheet on 31st March will automatically become part of your opening balance sheet on 1st April. So you can see it, you can feel it, it has a life of more than 1 year. So 99% of assets are covered by this test, that you can see it, that you can feel it, it has a life of more than 1 year. And thanks to the Italian monk, Luca Pacioli, who said that every transaction you do has two impacts. You will always have in a balance sheet assets equal to liabilities. That means the total of both the sides of the balance sheet will tally. Okay? We'll understand that a little better when we come to the balance sheet. And again, like a parrot, I want you to remember that the balance sheet contains items of a capital nature. So looking at both these together, we said that the profit or loss account is cumulative. It is a statement of income minus expenses. Income is called sales, revenue, top line, income, earnings. It is cumulative. Her month, if you're selling 10,000 rupees, you're billing 10,000 rupees, the total is 1,20,000, 10,000 plus 10,000 for 12 months. Similarly, expenses are divided into three buckets: manufacturing, employee, and overheads. That is 108. That gives you 12,000. Okay. Unlike this, and it contains items of a revenue nature. Looking at this slide, you now understand that all manufacturing expenses, all labor expenses, all overheads are revenue items, but we'll come to revenue and capital separately. The balance sheet is the position statement of the business. It is a statement on 31st March. The balance sheet at the end of 1st April will be different than the balance sheet on 31st March because something would have changed in the business. It is a statement of left-hand side, liability side. That is the mechanical way to remember it, left and left, or the sensible way and the lifelong way to remember it is when you owe something to somebody, it's not a pleasant feeling. Similarly, the word liability is an unpleasant word. What the business owns is called an asset. An asset will have a life of more than 1 year. It can be seen, it can be felt. Supposing this computer, you're sitting in your office and this computer belongs to your company. The computer is an asset. The room that the table on which the computer is sitting on is an asset. The room is an asset. The land on which that building was created is an asset. So If it can be seen, it can be felt, it has a life of more than 1 year, it's an asset. The balance sheet contains items of a capital nature. So before I ask questions, I just want you to understand what is revenue and what is capital. A revenue, expenditure and income, 3 words you need to remember, again from R, which is routine, recurring and regular. For example, every month you will pay salary. Every month you will incur power expenses. So it is routine, regular, recurring, right? A capital expenditure is an item which is exceptional. For example, supposing you are like L&T in the business of manufacturing and you buy a machine. You are not in the business of buying and selling machines. So it is exceptional. Supposing you buy a computer, it is exceptional. It would be a capital expenditure. It will go in the balance sheet. In a revenue expenditure, the transaction is completed in that accounting year. For example, supposing you're paying salaries to someone. Salaries, if you pay on 31st March, as one of you gave me, I think it was Samir who told me that 1st March से 31st March का आपने salary दे दिया, उसका benefit खत्म हो गया. वो 31st March को आदमी छोड़ के जाएगा, वो आप April में salary नहीं दोगे उसको. So the benefit is over in that year or in that period. In a capital expenditure, that computer you are going to use, even if you buy it on 1st March, you're going to use it in the next year. So the benefit extends beyond that accounting year. A revenue expenditure is maintaining an asset. Supposing along with the computer, you get into an AMC. An AMC is routine. It is part of your revenue expenditure. It will go to the profit or loss account. But supposing you do some capital expenditure, that is, that technician says, साहब ये 5 GB से मैंने 10 GB कर दिया ये computer का. You have improved the capacity of that asset or you have improved the life of that asset. That is a capital expenditure. A revenue expenditure is treated in the profit or loss account. A capital expenditure is treated in the balance sheet. So salaries that you pay, revenue expenditure, right? Power bill that you pay, revenue expenditure. Advertisement expenditure that you incur, revenue expenditure. Supposing you buy a machine or a computer, that's a capital expenditure. Let me give you a little complicated example. Supposing on 15th March, you buy 100 rupees of stock, raw material stock, and up to 31st March, you have utilized 60 rupees of that stock and it has gone into production. So kya hoga? 100 rupees will get split into 2 parts. The 60 rupees that you have used will be a manufacturing expense. It will go into your P&L as a manufacturing expense. On 31st March, 40 rupees is remaining. 40 rupees of raw material stock is remaining. Now, you understand that 40 rupees on 31st March kya ho gaya? It is lying in your godown. You can see it. You can feel it. It has a life of more than 1 year. So what will that 40 rupees become? It will be part of your closing inventory, which will come in the balance sheet as an asset. You can see it, you can feel it. It has a life of more than 1 year. When it is part of your closing stock of 40, next year it will become part of your opening stock. So what happened in this transaction? 100 rupees mein se, 60 rupees ka benefit got completed in that accounting year, which you used. Go to the second point. The benefit is completed in that year. So 60 rupees is revenue. 40 rupees will become your inventory, your closing inventory, which will become your next year's opening inventory. Again, when that goes into your manufacturing, that will again become a revenue expenditure. And that way your accounting will continue, right? So I'll just summarize and then take questions. The profit or loss is a cumulative statement, income minus expenses. Whatever are your income, also called sales, revenue, top line income, minus expenses will give you your net profit. The balance sheet is a position statement consisting of assets and liabilities. Liabilities and assets, let's get it right. Liability is the left-hand side. Liability is what the business owes. It's an unpleasant feeling. Asset is something that you own. It can be seen, it has felt, and it has a life of more than 1 year. And it contains items of a capital nature. Revenue is routine, regular, recurring. वो साल में इसका बेनिफिट खत्म हो गया. अब कंप्यूटर आप खरीदोगे तो 1 साल के बाद चलने वाला है वो. तो the benefit will extend beyond that year. When you pay the electricity bill, it is for the electricity units you have already consumed. The benefit is over. But supposing you give an electricity deposit, please understand that you're giving that deposit, and when you close that electricity meter, you will get that deposit back. So it is an asset, right? It's a financial asset. Similarly, all your equipment, all your land and building, all your plant and machinery, all your furniture and fixtures, all your computers are all assets. But if you do repairs to them, for example, supposing आपने कोई building का painting किया, सिर्फ painting किया, हर साल आप painting करते हो, it is a routine expenditure. But supposing painting के साथ आपने waterproofing भी किया, और आपने वो building का 5 साल का काम किया, so you are allowed to take that expenditure as a capital expenditure. So revenue expenditure will be treated in the profit or loss account. Capital expenditure will be treated in the balance sheet. I'll be happy to take questions.
Sir, can you show, do you have in the slide a sample P&L and
I'm coming to that. I'll show that. This one. I have this only as a sample. But तो मैन्युफैक्चरिंग में क्या आएगा? रॉ मटेरियल परचेज किया, स्टोर्स एंड स्पेयर पार्ट्स परचेज किया, कंस्ट्रक्शन मटेरियल कंप्लीट किया, वो सब पीएनएल में गया, खर्चा हो गया. लेबर इज मेनली योर एम्प्लॉय कॉस्ट, योर एम्प्लॉय वेलफेयर एक्सपेंसेस. Overheads is what is not manufacturing and what is not labor goes into the pocket of overhead expenses. Right? So let's do one thing. Let's take a normal balance sheet, a normal P&L account, right? Now understand that any company will have some other income. For supposing you are a company who is manufacturing, but one day you are just sitting on a lakh of rupees of cash. What will you do? You will invest that money and you will get some income out of it. Right? Now you are not a bank who is in the business of borrowing and lending money. So that is not part of your main income. That is part of your other income. So every large company will have one other head of income called other income. This other income is not the income from your, for example, let me give you L&T's example. L&T has invested in the share capital of L&T Infotech, or L&T Mindtree as it is now called. And L&T Mindtree gives dividend. That income comes to L&T. So that will be part of your other income. So the two heads of income for any large company would be revenue from operations and other income. Other income usually for a large company, manufacturing company, will be your financial income. That is what you have got when you have invested money, what some subsidiary company of yours has given you dividend, etc. It is not your main source of income. Okay. This other income is a place where you have to be very, very careful about, as we'll come to this example. Then, of course, you have manufacturing expenses, you have employee related expenses. And remember, though the law does not say, you would like the readers of your accounts to have as much clarity as what is overheads. So all good companies divide their overheads into 3 buckets. This, remember, manufacturing, employee and first overhead bucket. Abhi ye 3A, 3B, C and 3A, B, C karte hain. What is 3A? 3A is your actual sales and administration expenses. 3B is finance cost. That is the interest you have paid. When you borrow money, you pay interest. So that is 3B. When you earn interest, it is other income. When you pay interest, it is called finance cost. It need not be interest. It can be, supposing you are buying a flat and you are paying some brokerage on it. So it's a financial cost. It has basically to do with money. And the last head is called depreciation. Now, what is depreciation? This is the last part of our, and the last tough part. Please understand that when you buy assets, like you buy a computer, now let us say that you have spent 1 lakh rupees and you have bought the computer. The life of the computer, fortunately for us, the Institute of Chartered Accountants across the world have defined what is called the age of the asset. Now, what they say is that whenever you buy an asset like that, the cost must be spread over its estimated useful life. So now they have said that computers have a useful life of 5 years. Now 100, let us say, is the cost. If the life is 5 years, the per year cost you will take is 20. That is 100 divided by 5. So what will you do? Remember, a computer is a capital expenditure. So it will come into the balance sheet as 100. 100, at the end of the first year, you will reduce 20. The cost becomes 80. Similarly, and 20 rupees will come as an expense in depreciation. Next year, the same thing happens. 20 rupees in the profit or loss as an expense. The value of that asset reduces to 60. The third year, you do the same thing. 20 rupees depreciation. At the end of the third year, that asset becomes 40 rupees. And the computer breaks down. You call the technician. He says, "Saab, isko fek do. Iska koi value nahi hai." So what happened? You anticipated, or rather the Institute of Chartered Accountants anticipated, that the computer's life was 5 years, but actually it broke down in 3 years. Now, whenever you have an asset working less than what is the estimated life, you have another component of depreciation called obsolescence. The asset has become obsolete. So you expected, so in the third year, what you will do is, along with that 20 rupees depreciation, you will also have to take an additional cost of 40 rupees, because remember that computer has become zero. It is no longer valuable, right? So in the third year, what you will have 20 rupees of depreciation and you will have 40 rupees of obsolescence cost, because your asset will now disappear from the balance sheet. How? Because 100 may say at the end of the first year you took 20, 80 remained. The end of the second year you took 20, 60 remained. And in the third year you took depreciation, so 40 should have remained. But instead of that, the asset broke down and you had to completely scrap it. So you will have to take additional 40 as a cost. Uske tulna mein dekhiye, instead of that, you assume that at the end of the fifth year also, the computer is working wonderfully well. Now, when it is working wonderfully well, why should you throw it out? Now, the risk is that supposing the last year, at the end of the beginning of the last year, there will be a value of 20. Now, if you take that full 20, what will happen? The value of that computer will become 0 and that line item will disappear from your accounts. So tomorrow, if someone runs away with that computer, you do not know. So to ensure that there is a physical control over that asset, in the last year, you will not take 20, you will take 19,999 rupees, leaving behind a notional balance of 1 rupee, to ensure that उसका physical वो asset number दिखता है, कल कोई भाग नहीं जाएगा उसके साथ, नहीं तो वो account से तो आपका निकल जाएगा. And supposing 6th year the same thing continues, 7th year it becomes, you finally sell it for 10,001 rupees. Now you are not in the business of selling computers. So you have got an asset of 1 rupee in your accounts. How did you get 1 rupee? 1 lakh minus 20,000 for 4 years. And in the 5th year, you took 19,999 rupees. So 1 rupee is left. 1 rupee you are selling for 10,001 rupees. That additional 10,000 rupees would come under the head of other income. Right? So if the asset works less, it is obsolescence. If the asset works more than the estimated life, it is called other income when you sell it. Now, fortunately for us, each asset, and you did not remember this, land by its very nature does not depreciate. So there is 0 depreciation. A building is expected to have a life of 50 years. So 100 divided by 50, that means 2% depreciation every year. Computers, 5 years. So depreciation 20%. Anything with wheels, you can understand that anything with wheels has the utilization and the life will अगर बम्बई के रास्ते में आप गाड़ी चलाओगे तो वो गाड़ी का भंगार होने को ज़्यादा टाइम नहीं लगेगा. So anything with wheels has the maximum depreciation. The life is 4 years. So the depreciation is 25%. And the last category, again, there are 5 categories. The last category, which is in fact the most important category, is the residual category. That will contain things like plant and machinery, furniture and fixtures, electrical installations, all your major assets. They are supposed to have a life of 7 years. Now you can't divide 100 by 7 and get a whole number. So you round off that depreciation to 15%. So again, no need of remembering the numbers. 0 for land, 2% for building, 15% for everything else, which is not computers, which is 20%, or not vehicles, which is 25%. Now, supposing why do all this business? कि भैया ये depreciation का झंझट क्यों करते हो आप? Instead of that, एक ही काम करो ना भाई. वो जिस साल में टूट गया वो पूरा खर्चा ले लो. Now that is not correct accounting, because supposing the computer breaks down in the 5th year, then what will you do? Supposing you did not have this concept of depreciation. You will take 0 in the 1st year, 0 in the 2nd year, 0 in the 3rd year, 0 in the 4th year, and you will take 100 in the 5th year. Please understand that is not correct accounting, because you are using the computer in those 4 years. So it is fair that a cost of that usage should also come. And the last and most important point about depreciation is, you do not pay depreciation to anyone. See, you pay manufacturing expenses, so money goes out of your bank account. You pay employee related expenses, so money goes out of your bank account. You pay sales and admin expenses, you pay interest. In depreciation, what happens? Your balance sheet में से number कम होता है, P&L में expense दिखाता है, so there is no cash outflow. So, if your income is 36 and your expenses are 32, please understand that that 4, because there is no cash going out of your business for depreciation, you need to add back the depreciation, that is 6. 6 will be the amount of cash that you have in hand. Now, the other way of looking at this is, one is the mechanical way, that profit before tax को depreciation add कर दो to find out cash. दूसरा चीज है visualize. आपका बैंक अकाउंट में देखो पूरे साल में क्या हुआ होगा. आपका बैंक अकाउंट में 30 और 6 दोनों में पैसा आया होगा, तो 36 अंदर आया होगा. बाहर क्या गया? बाहर 16 गया, 8 गया, 4 गया, 2 गया. ये जो depreciation है वो तो गया नहीं ना किधर. तो आपके बैंक अकाउंट में कितना पैसा बचा? 36 minus 16 minus 8 minus 4 minus 2, which is 30. So 6,000 is left in your bank account. Right? So 36 minus 30 is 32, is 4 is your profit before tax, and your amount of cash at this stage is 6. Now, because we have a less of time, I won't do this, but please understand that why is other income so important? If you look at this business, the income is 36 and the profit is 4. But if you did not have this other income of 6, you would actually have a loss of 2, because you would have total income only of 30 and you would have had expenses of 32. So if the other income, remember, other income is not your regular business. If your other income is more than your total expenses, you actually have a loss. So when you're looking at the P&L of a competitor, you're looking at the P&L of a vendor, you're looking at the P&L of a supplier, please look at the other income. If the other income is more than the profit before tax, actually from the business you have made a loss. और ये other income कहाँ से आता है मालूम है? You remember I said assets are valued at cost. So supposing Godrej decides to sell off that land. Now that land is recorded at 2,000 rupees a square acre. They will get a lot of money when they sell it. That profit is recorded as part of other income. So other income is a great friend of the accountant. वो other income accountant को बचाता है, management को बचाता है. And how does this other income arise? Because assets are recorded always at the lower of the cost of the market value, and usually, especially when it comes to land, when it comes to property, it is valued at cost, which is much less than the market value. So, what are you doing? To maintain your day-to-day khane ka kharcha, or to maintain your day-to-day profit or loss account, you are selling your family jewelry. When you are selling assets, and that gets reflected in the other income. because you're not in the business of selling. L&T में भी ये बहुत होता है, because we sell off businesses. What is selling a business? Selling of business is selling of a combination of assets. What is a business? A business is a combination. Itna plant and machinery hoga, itna furniture hoga, itna ye hoga. So when you sell off these assets and you get other income, that is the other income that is sold off. So if other income is the first number you must look at, what must you look at in the profit or loss account? The other income is the first number you must look at. Okay, bhaiya, if this other income is more than net profit before tax, then actually from your business you have made a loss. Right? So I'll be happy to take questions. We'll take another 10 minutes because we started a little late, 10 to 15 minutes. Fazal, I hope it is okay.
Yeah.
Okay?
Sorry.
Yeah, and trust me, it will be useful because we have come this long way, so I don't want you to miss out on the last part. This profit before tax is the number which is thrown into the balance sheet. What is this number? Remember, the profit or loss is a summary. Now you have prepared this profit or loss account. As I told you, law allows you 2 months after the closure of accounts. So now you have got this profit before tax. What is this profit before tax? It is income, including other income, minus expenses. That gives you your profit before tax. Now, remember in the slide, why finance from a corporate perspective? We said that the government has to, we said that 5 stakeholders have to be paid. Your employees have to be paid. They have been paid because they have been paid employee related expenses. They have been paid salaries. Your lenders have, your suppliers have been paid because manufacturing expenses has been paid. Your lenders have been paid because their interest has been paid. Your government and shareholders have not yet been paid because you haven't paid taxes so far. So profit before tax, you have profit before tax 4,000. What you do is, let us say that the corporate taxation rate is 30%. So out of this profit, 30% you allocate for the government. Now understand in terms of time, where are you? You are on 31st or you are on 20th May. Your balance sheet is a position statement as of 31st March. So the amount of profit that you have to pay to the government is something that the business owes. So it is a liability. Similarly, you decide that this company has a policy that 50% of the profits I will pay as way of dividend to the shareholders. That is my standard policy. So after you pay for the, you make a provision. What is why provision? Because you don't know whether the income tax will accept all your numbers of income and expenses. So a liability which is not definite, which the amount is not certain, is called a provision. You feel it will be that much. It is not a certain figure. Similarly, if the provision for tax is not certain, the net profit after tax will also not be certain. You decide that 50% of the profits after tax you will provide for dividend. And finally, the last point in the profit or loss account is reserves. Reserves is that part of the profit you choose to keep in the business. So this completes your profit or loss account. Profit before tax, how did you get? Income minus expenses, income plus other income, that is your non-business income, 36, minus expenses. Remember, depreciation is a non-cash outflow, so that will be added back. So actually you will have 6,000 rupees in cash. Then profit before tax gets thrown into the balance sheet because you have already cost 31st March. So in the profit or loss account, it will look like this. In the balance sheet, remember the balance sheet is the position statement. It is a position statement of what the business owes, which is called a liability, and what the business owns, which is called an asset, right? So the liability side, obviously, if you owe money to the income tax, it's a liability. Similarly, what you owe to the shareholders is also a liability. And what of the profit which you are supposed to pay to the shareholders, though it is called the word reserves, today people prefer to use the word other equity. It is reserves. it is what you owe to the shareholders is also a liability. So friends, one very important point, profit is always a liability. Why? Because of the concept of separate legal entity. Please remember that even if you are running your own business, whose accounts are you preparing? You are preparing the accounts of your business. The profit that your business makes, is a liability that the business owes to the shareholder or to the proprietor. So in the case of shareholders, it is easy to understand, but even if you are preparing your own accounts, please understand you are preparing the accounts of the business of Mr. Natwar Lal. So the profit made by the business of Mr. Natwar Lal or Mr. Tiwari, the profit made by the business of Tiwari's pawn shop is the liability of the business which it owes to Mr. Tiwari. Remember, you are not preparing the account, so that is why profit is always a liability. Now, the last part of this is that, remember, you will have cash of 6,000 because you have already taken depreciation. What is depreciation? You have reduced that from the asset, so it is a minus figure. So this balance sheet tallies this way. Now, the problem is cash is not generated when you prepare the balance sheet. The cash is generated, as I told you, on a day-to-day basis. I gave you that example of 50 minus 38. So this cash is generated on a day-to-day basis. On a day-to-day basis, not when you prepare your balance sheet on 15th May, but on a day-to-day basis, you will use this cash to pay your suppliers of materials and services. You will use this cash to pay interest, dividend, and tax. You will pay this cash to repay the borrowings that you have taken. Please understand in these three things what happens. The cash becomes less on the asset side. Now, if you're paying your supplier of materials and services, remember he's a liability because you haven't paid him. Similarly, you're using this to pay your interest, tax, and dividend, which are also liabilities. If you have borrowed some money, you're utilizing this cash on a day-to-day basis to repay your borrowing. And after that, or maybe beyond that, what you can do, you can convert this cash into some other form of asset. This is the three liabilities that you have paid off. Similarly, you can convert this cash, you can buy raw material, which is one form of asset getting into another form of asset. Instead of cash, you will have oranges, raw material, inventory. Or you can buy property, plant and equipment. That is, you can buy the van, or you can buy the godown, or you can additionally invest the money. So profit is an accountant's number. Cash is what is the reality. And this cash is used either to repay the liabilities like payment of suppliers, materials. Now this happens on a day-to-day business. If supposing at the end of 1 month, 1 lakh rupees of cash is left in your bank account, you will not keep it like that because you're not going to earn any interest on it. You will use to pay off your suppliers of materials or services. You will use it to pay your interest. Supposing your borrowed money where you're paying interest, you will use this to reduce the borrowing, or you will convert this cash, which is an asset, to another form of asset. That is, you will use it to buy inventory. You will use it to either buy some computers or machinery. That is called together, it is called property, plant and equipment, PPE. Or this cash which is lying in your bank account not earning interest, you will convert it to some form of interest where you will get some interest on it, which will come as part of your other income. And the last, so I want you to look at this profit or loss account as a summary. Revenue from operations, add other income, less manufacturing expenses, employee expenses, overheads will give your profit before tax. You have your provision for tax, which is 30%. It's a liability. Provision for dividends, and the balance is reserves or other equity. Come to the last slide, which is your balance sheet. Your balance sheet has got a liability side and an asset side. The liability side will be the share capital that is given by the proprietor. Then you have, remember that 1400 rupees, which came from other equity, that is added to the old equity of 5,000. So you have 6,400. You have got long-term borrowing. Long-term borrowing, supposing this long-term borrowing is 1,000 and you want to borrow 100. What will happen? Your liability side will go up by 100. The bank will put 100 rupees into your cash and bank account. So the asset side will also go up by 100. The bank will visualize that the bank manager is giving you a check of 100. So your borrowing, let us say after this balance sheet, say next year you want to borrow 100. Your long-term borrowing will go up by 100. Your cash and bank balance will go up by 100. Then you have got the short-term borrowing. Those suppliers whom you haven't paid on 31st March are called payables. Anybody has given you an advance is also a liability. And you have got your provisions. Remember the provision for tax and the provision for dividend and expenses. If you see the liability side of your balance sheet, you will have share capital and other reserves or 6,600. You will have long-term borrowing of 1,000 and you will have short-term borrowing, the suppliers you haven't paid, and the provisions for expenses, tax and dividend. Supposing you haven't paid salaries of 400 on 31st March, it will be a provision for expenses, 400, because you haven't paid your salaries. So 4,400 plus 3,000 is 7,400. 8,400 is the total borrowing you have done. That is 2 plus 3, 7,400 plus 1,000, 8,400. Your equity, that is your shareholders' funds, are 6,600. 15,000 is the total of your liability side. What is on your asset sides? You have got some physical assets like plant and machinery, furniture and fixtures, computers. You have got some investments which you converted. The loans and advances you have given are called loans and advances. These together are called non-current assets. And the current assets are your raw material inventory, your customers who haven't paid you, the cash and bank balance that you have, your short-term loans that you have given, and other current assets, that is the advances you have given. That total is 10,000. 10,000 is your current assets. 5,000 is the long-term assets, which is basically property, plant and equipment investments. Remember, assets are of two kinds. You have physical assets like property, plant and equipment. You have got inventories and receivables. That is physical. Inventory means raw material stock, finished goods stocks, WIP. Receivables are your customers who haven't paid you on 31st March. And you have got some financial assets like investments, etc. Those are the financial assets. They are financed by the liability side. And finally, liability side tells you पैसा कहाँ से आता है. In accounts, this is called sources of funds. कि पैसा यहाँ से आता है, and this is called application of funds. पैसा यहाँ से आता है, पैसा यहाँ जाता है. So in English, we lead it from left to right. So you're getting the money from here. This is where the money is invested. And always both the sides will be equal. So this completes the balance sheet. And finally, I'd like to end with some English. It says, if you think you are beaten, you are. If you think you dare not, you don't. If you like to win, but you think you can't, it's almost certain you won't. If you think you lose, you're lost. For out in the world we find success begins with a fellow's will. It's all in the state of mind. If you think you are outclassed, you are. You've got to be sure of yourself before you can ever win a prize. And finally, these words I read every day of my life. Faisal has given me a Quran, which I have started reading. I have covered about half of it. I find it very interesting. It also helps me to be very relaxed when I go to sleep. So thank you very much, Faisal, for that. Life's battles don't always go to the stronger or faster man. But sooner or late, the man who thinks, who wins, is the man who thinks he can. Thank you ever so much. Sorry, in this slide, my mobile number is not there. My mobile number is 98215-56300. 98215-56300. My email ID is Balsara, Balsara, Ramyar. That's one word. Balsara, Ramyar @gmail.com. I'll be very happy to take your calls. I'll be very happy to answer to your emails. I know we got a little extended, but we started a little late and I didn't want you to miss out on any of the things. So I'm not very happy with the way we did the balance sheet, but it's good enough for you to understand that the balance sheet is nothing else but the state of your liabilities and assets. The liabilities are from where the money is coming. The assets are on where the money is invested. And what gets thrown from the profit or loss account into the balance sheet is the provision for tax, provision for dividend, and the reserves, which is part of the equity shareholders' money. When you finally close down the business, what will you have to do? You will have to sell off all these assets. You will have to convert your inventory. Your customers will have to pay you. The loans you have given will have to be taken back. So finally, when you close a business, all the assets get converted to cash, and that cash will be used to pay off the liabilities. You will pay off your short-term borrowing. You will pay off your long-term borrowing. And finally, the money that is left behind, you will use to pay your shareholders or your equity off. So with that, gentlemen, thank you very much. It's been fun. It's been interesting.
Indeed.
Thank you, Samir, for the questions you asked me. Thank you to the gentleman who got the guts to ask me a question. I'm sorry, I don't remember your name, but there was an AV before your name. I presume you're an advocate. I think it was Zahir or Zakir. I'm not sure. But thank you for those questions. And of course, Faisal, thank you for the invitation and the questions. Thank you very much.
Sir, it was a pleasure for us. I have no word for you. Looking like people and meeting people with, like you, my interest for the humanity increases. That's the only word. Sir, I'll take for audience 2 minutes just to give presentation, to just introduce who we are, what we try to do. With inspiration, people like Mr. Balsara, we try to give back to the community. We are a PSF Professional Solidarity Forum. With the same thought, people like Mr. Balsara, we try to do ourselves. Mostly we try to focus on professionals because we wanted to do well in our forte. We have a bunch of professional, as you can see, we have increased well over the time. We try to engage in an activity like self-development. Apart from this session, there is a course called Masterclass, which is continuously going on, where we choose a different topic: health, politics, spiritual development, parenting as well. This is the second session of the Mr. Balsara. I have been listening his session since I joined. Every time I enjoy. Sir, to your knowledge, I think 22 people were attentively living on a Sunday in the afternoon in Mumbai. I think that's all commendable based on your teaching method, the way of delivering, the articulation of your thoughts, conveying the message. Coming back, sir, to our PSF. So we have a bunch of people. We always, I'll try to skim through. So this was the topic I was talking about in a PSF Masterclass. We run development cloud. I'm a mechanical. Most of there is other team who's also handle these soft skills and computer related activities. This is one of the glimpses of the PSF Masterclass. So again, something about the masterclass, some topics. This was a digital marketing course running, I think around the same. Yeah, it just concluded on the 2nd October. We also have a program called Mentor and Mentee, where we try to join new students and maybe a professional from the company to help them grow them. They have many things they need someone to mentor. We try to connect them. So we also try to put something for the social cause. As you can see from the images, relief fund in the winter and in the summer. We try to do our bit. these are the two special programs. I'll share this input to you all. Kafalat is a program which sir, Kafalat is something that we do. I really like in an L&T what we do. The tree certificate thing. The tree certificate is it's very close to my heart in L&T. For any guest, we don't spend something on a bouquet or all. We give him a tree certificate in company. A tree is being nurtured, taken care throughout his life, and the sponsor is being updated about this in a similar fashion. That this is a kafalat where uh, we try to pay the fees of the needy students, the economically challenged families. Nikki Basket is again a program where we try to give food for a needy. So these are some of the glimpses of the kafalat. You can choose a student. We give them a target. People can contribute them. This was again a slide on a Nikki Basket. We try to collaborate people. Things happens when we collaborate. That I understood. Though the number looks less in our session considering some other event, but I always read in a history, sir, अच्छा काम बहुत कम लोग ही करते हैं. That's why it gives impetus for us to also do a good job. So that was an introduction about PSF. With that, I sincerely thanks Mr. Balsara, sir. He is the guy every professional human being should know him. That I would say. As you see, he travels a lot from girls to all over India, and still on our call, he showed up. He spent his crucial 2-3 hours for our session. I can say just thank you for your time, sir, and all the participants.
My pleasure, and I'm always available. And Faisal, the next time I come to Powai, I want to give you a check. So I'll give you a call. I don't know when, but it will be sometime next week. I'll give you a check. Just send me the name in which that check has to be given.
Yeah. What to the audience? What can you see as trainer instead of charging a fees, he is giving a donation to our organization. With that, sir, I'll just pray for God, pray for Allah for your good health.
Thank you.
For prosperity and all the happiness for the life. And thank you for your time. Thank you, audience. Assalamualaikum, and peace be upon you.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, and please stay in touch. You
Sure,
can
sir,
always get my phone number and email ID from Faisal. Okay.
Yeah, I'll share your details in the group, sir.
Yeah. In the presentation, unfortunately, in the last slide, I don't know. I normally give my email, and this time it's got left out. I'll add it. Okay. Thank you.
No problem, sir. No problem.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
God bless. Thank you. God bless. May Allah be with you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Bye.
Bye.